I'd like to call this meeting to order of the facilities, and thank you, Vogel team, for coming to help us this afternoon. Noting that our 3 board members from the facility committee is here, as well as Stephen Randy, to help with the decisions on mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and steel this afternoon. So the first thing I'd like to do is may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I have not received any public comments from the meeting today. So I'm going to kick this over either to Randy or Jay or whoever wants to.
Why don't I start us off and then I can move it over to you, Jay,
Yep.
talk a little bit about what we've done. And Jay's done a lot of work behind the scenes to kind of get us to this point, identifying contractors that we should be considering that can address the scope of work that we have over the next several years. And as you recall, that we did have a process where we talked to the board a few months ago with regards to kind of what our process would be to hit certain timelines as a referendum comes before us on November 8th. We're nearing that timeline. One of the things that was articulated from our core team was if we could have some of our key subcontractors on board and in the waiting as that referendum came, that we would then be able to kind of move right into the work as opposed to securing them after the referendum time point. So from that point, Steve and I worked with Jay, and Jay, you went through a process. So why don't I give you a second just to kind of walk through that so everybody here understands what we did and then kind of what brought us all here today. And then Steve, if you have anything to add, please feel free.
Perfect. Great. So we did issue from HVAC, electrical, and plumbing work. You may hear them referred to as MEP a lot. I'll try to remind you, it's HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. We issued what's called a request for proposal. That went out to 7 firms on the electrical standpoint, 5 on the plumbing, and 5 on the HVAC. We did go out to firms that we felt like had the qualifications and resources to be able to perform work for both of the schools. And the district and us got really good response there. So on the electrical side, we ended up getting 5 responses of the 7. And then on the plumbing side, we got 6 responses. And on the HVAC side, we got 5 responses. So our team took those responses, pulled everything together, and put together an analysis that we reviewed with Steve and Randy and John about 2 weeks ago now. And out of that review with the team, we shortlisted to the groups that you're going to see in front of you today. So from an electrical standpoint, we have Westfall Electric Construction Incorporated, and 1901 are 3 firms that are going to be interviewing electrically. You will see 1901 shows up a lot. That's because they do plumbing, HVAC, and electrical work in-house. And so they're the last one to present today, and they're going to be talking about plumbing, HVAC, and electric. So they're still in play for all 3 of those trades. Then when you move to HVAC, besides 1901, Hooper Corporation, who General Heating may be more familiar name to folks around the table. General has always been a subsidiary of Hooper Corporation. They rebranded as they moved into their new facility here a little over a year ago. And now Hooper Corporation is both mechanical and plumbing. And then North American Mechanical, who I think the district is pretty familiar with, as they've done a lot of work in the district. On the plumbing side, it's also those same 3 firms. So 1901, Hooper, and North American. And so when both those firms come in, they're going to talk both about the plumbing and HVAC. Everybody has 15 minutes and then 5 minutes of question and answer. So we want to make sure we get them in here. They go through the high level, what they want to hit from a facilities committee standpoint. Make sure if you got any questions, be able to ask those questions, even if it's within the 15 minutes. And then we've got it set up here today, so then I think there's about a half an hour towards the end to be able to deliberate and ultimately make a decision, ideally, that you can then take to the board meeting next Monday night. The 3 things I've asked everybody to hit on today are their ability to meet the schedule as proposed in the RFP. And as you recall, the elementary school is really the first critical path part of that, being able to have the elementary school open by September of 24. Ultimately, what I'm guessing you're gonna hear today is there's some long lead equipment that's gonna have to be released in the next couple of months, probably January, February, to make that a reality. But then also what they have from a resource standpoint to actually put the work in place. The second piece we've asked them to talk about is their involvement in the community, whether it be work in the district previously, work within the community in other areas, and then members of their team that are in the district. And from a community standpoint, I think that's really critical as you look at vendors within this district. And then the third piece is the financial component of it. We've done a really detailed analysis of that financial piece. I've asked them to share at a high level what that looks like. All the proposals were provided obviously to the public, so now they've been able to see the competitors' proposals. So they'll be able to speak to both, their proposal and how that compares. When we get done today, I've actually got a spreadsheet that I can pull up on the screen to just show you how we've normalized across all the proposals, because some may have a higher fee, but lower rates. And when you look at the whole compensation package, that tends to wash out a little bit. And so we've done an analysis there to just get everyone apples to apples that we can share from that perspective. I've also asked them as part of the financial piece to just talk about from their perspective how they're going to manage the budget and make sure that what they're bringing forward is cost-effective solutions to.
Thank you.
Are there any opportunities with these guys for students to kind of learn? Is that something that they'll be addressing?
Absolutely. A few of them have even brought that up with me. I said that might be something worth bringing up today, Jack. So I think you're going to hear from a couple, and if you don't from others, by all means, asking them that is totally appropriate. So that was all the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. The first person you see here is Sam Ballway, some of you know from Endress. So as you recall, steel was another one of those long lead time items we identified. With the spring start, we'd be looking to start having steel go up early to midsummer. And in order to do so based on current market conditions, we're likely to need to release that January, February-ish. And so what we did is I've talked to Sam. We did issue Endress a similar proposal, not nearly as in depth as the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. You saw on the agenda the response that was returned from Endress, taking a very similar approach to the last project, which I believe was a success from a district standpoint. And what we've done is ask Sam to come here today to just talk a little bit about his proposal and answer any questions. So with that, I'll kick it over to you.
All right. Yeah, thanks for letting me come in today. I think you guys have some background on Endress, but just real briefly, we're over 95 years in Waunakee, Westport. It's a family business that was started by my great-grandfather. We've moved over the years from a small machine and welding shop to a big structural steel fabricator, one of the biggest in Wisconsin, and do projects all over the United States at this point. To hit on a couple of things that Jay brought up, schedule-wise, the steel world is definitely in flux. Things are definitely getting better, but we were seeing lead times of 9 months to a year on some key structural sizes in the last year. Right now, we're seeing it to be closer to 3 to 6 months, depending on what we're looking for. You're going to have some gym in this new facility. Those large length joists are going to be our key thing that's got to get ordered. I would say that's probably that 4 to 6 month time frame once we see the final design of what's actually required. So that's the key piece that we got to get ordered. Resource-wise, we'd be committed to getting the job done. We always have been. We've had more lead time than we ever had in the past. We used to do projects in 3 months and it would be out the door. So having 6 months gives us plenty of time to make sure we have the necessary manpower in to get the job done. Similar to the last job, I tell you too, our names and reputation is on the line when it's in Waunakee. We don't want to be the guys delaying the schedule. So we're committed to making sure the project gets done in a timely fashion if it's something we can control. Community-wise, again, I think we're a great pillar of this community. We do a lot of work, whether it's financial donations, but also giving back in little ways. We were just at Waunakee High School yesterday for the Food for Kids event. We sponsored a table there. We just donated a truck for the homecoming parade for the band to ride on. We have a great relationship with the high school in terms of sharing that parking lot. We handled our Oktoberfest party a couple months back. Again, collaborating with the high school, making sure that everyone's on board with what we do, using your grounds, using the parking lot, and collaborating as best we can there too. So I think we're a great member of this community and I'm proud to be a part of it. Lastly, on the financial side, we don't typically bid work this way. We predominantly are a hard bid industry where we're submitting a price and then we're locked into that price. In the last year, as steel prices were going up, that was a benefit to our customers because we would bid at a price of what it was on October 1st, and we would have to lock in that price. So if steel prices went up, the customer had the benefit of that. Right now, we're seeing steel prices come down. So to our benefit, we're locking in that price on October 1st, and I can actually buy it cheaper on October 15th. I get to pocket that savings as Endress Manufacturing. What we're proposing with Jay and what we did last time is we would actually float your number until we have to go out and buy the steel. And at that time, we would lock in that price. Again, it does put the risk back onto the school district versus onto Endress Manufacturing. If steel prices come down, which economists say is going to happen, but no one knows for sure, that's to the school district's benefit. So we're hoping that it continues to go that way and therefore saves the school district and the taxpayers those dollars. But yeah, I think it's,
Float, Sam, would we have the ability to lock in, like, let's say, guaranteed maximum price where there would be a ceiling where it wouldn't go above that?
absolutely. Yeah, no, and I think that's what we did the previous job. Again, we haven't gotten to that point in the design process that we would feel comfortable putting that number on there, but absolutely. Once we get to that point, we can definitely do that.
So how do you, you're getting flat steel, right? And-
Right, we're buying raw material lengths at like 60-foot
Yeah.
lengths of steel.
So, are you purchasing directly from the mill?
We do. That's one thing that we feel is a benefit of Endress over our peers is we're buying direct from a mill. We're large enough, we're one of the largest in the area that we're going direct to a Steel Dynamics or a Nucor steel mill and
Right.
buying that steel.
So you can kind of forecast, as people say, it's coming.
We do. Yeah. I mean, we're still going to lock in a price eventually because
Right.
we need to get that steel on order. And so once we place that order, that steel pricing in essence is locked.
But from just having raw material, by you putting it in the forecast, you're kind of putting this job in line.
Correct. Yep.
So. Put that in the forecast yet, or is it after?
No, not yet. Just we don't have the designs to the point yet where I can go out and kind of lock in that steel and what it's going to be. I mean, it's way wide open at this point.
Can you just speak to, you talked about the lead times and the resource, but can you speak to backlog capacity for what's currently happening in the pipeline?
Yep. We're definitely busy now through the end of the year. People are coming to me with projects saying, hey, can we get steel before year end? And I'm saying no. Currently with the job that we get booked today, I'm telling them a February 1st delivery. And these are jobs that are over $500,000 in structural steel. We're guessing this job is going to be close to $2 million, I think, when we get down to the bottom. So yeah, something like this, shows up at my door today, we would tell you we'd probably be delivering in March. It's probably about where we would be. Our schedule was opening up, I would say, in about January and February. So a spring start for us would fit in nicely, especially if we know it's something we can kind of lock into our schedule in the coming months.
And then just talk, as Jack was alluding to, you're not able to lock in on steel. But can you just talk to what that process looks like? Because it'll likely be somewhat parallel path with the structural engineer who will be on the team until post.
Yep. One advantage to having us on early is we can work with the structural engineer, point out maybe certain sizes that are either long lead times or higher prices. Engineers tend to just do whatever the book might recommend, and we can come back to them and say, well, actually, if you go up 10 pounds per foot, it's actually a more readily available and a cheaper piece of steel. So we can help them, guide them through some of that process. But yeah, we would probably get those structural design drawings where he kind of has where he calls out the material sizes, we'll say. Once we see that, we can get to that GMP that we talked about. We would start going to our mills, getting some of the pricing, understanding what that would be. Again, talking to the mills, trying to get a better idea of our steel prices going up. Are they going to stay flat? Are they going to go down? Making that decision probably on par with you guys and Vogel of, is it something that we want to go and lock in pricing now if we see pricing maybe starting to creep up instead of down? So we would probably start that ordering process January, February, as soon as we get those drawings to at least get an idea of what steel pricing is doing, what those material sizes are, locking in that window with the mill, because the other thing we have to do is we have to hit what's called a rolling cycle. So steel rolls, certain sizes roll every 4 weeks to 8 weeks, depending on the size. So we would want to lock in and say, all right, we need 2 truckloads of a W8x10, and we got to get that locked in so we make sure that that steel arrives at Endress in time for us to fabricate and then ship to the job site.
Going off analysts in terms of prices coming down, what factors do you see where that may not actually pan out that way?
Well,
I mean,
so
you're not the
the
expert
last
on
time,
it, but-
no, it's a good question. Last time we thought prices were going to come down all year, and then the attack in Ukraine happened, and that sent pricing into a flurry of increases again. You know, their steel is a global commodity, so there is a lot of steel made in Russia and Ukraine. We're not buying any of that here, but just the fact that all of a sudden this input of steel was getting stifled, steel prices across the entire world went up. So we saw that here in Wisconsin. So anytime of outside activity like that, the hurricane caused a couple things. Paint prices went up because there's a lot of paint manufacturers down in that Florida Gulf Coast area, so they were concerned. So there's a bunch of factors that can lead to price increases. Price decreases are just going to be basically on demand. You know, right now the demand for steel is relatively stable. It's amazing how one big stadium project, when they built Raider Stadium about 2-3 years ago, steel prices across the United States went up because that sucked in so much steel that, you know, it affected all markets. So one big project like that can have an effect. The last couple of years, steel prices were a factor of all the Amazon facilities that were getting built. So it was a big news story that Amazon was building distribution stores or centers everywhere. Steel prices as a result, you know, got pulled up drastically over that year. So a lot of things can happen, but right now the economy, the steel indices that we watch are pretty clearly pointing that prices are going to continue to come down. We see one more decrease yet this year, hopefully, and maybe one to start out next year.
So Sam, so if we establish that guaranteed maximum price, really that ceiling for the district, it'd be based on unit rates similar to what's in your letter.
Correct.
And then at the end of the day, we'd be able to sit down and audit that 24 by 55 beam, or something like that. You're actually able to buy it for $62 a foot. And you can do that.
Yep.
Cost versus.
Correct.
So we just move forward.
Yeah. Thank you, Sam. Great.
Yeah, thank you guys. And like I said, I think it went really well last time. I think a couple of you were on the board at the time, but it's not something we typically do, but it did make for a really smooth process. I thought, you know, all the change orders were reduced. The management time of the other contractor seemed to go really well. So again, it's a great way to do a project, and I think it benefits the community and, you know, us as a business too, to keep it local and work in the community. So.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
All right. Anything else?
Sam? Do you want to bring the other one in early?
Sure.
So we're good. Welcome.
Thank
You got the district here, and you've got 15 minutes, and we'll be 5 Q&A. I did ask the facilities committee if they do have questions as you go in, which I know they don't necessarily have to wait, but let you get going, and I'll be the management.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, well, thanks for inviting us here. First of all, just 2 real quick introductions. My name is Ryan Fennis. I'm the project executive for this project for Westfall. Spent quite a while early on in my career working with MEP, you might know, and pretty much learned schools through him. I was kind of in the background on the previous referendum work, and since then, worked on numerous school projects through Sun Prairie School District, Verona School District. Right now, we're working in the Madison School District. Now here we are. So that's me.
Hi, guys. I'm Josh Shell. A little bit about myself is my wife Brittany is a 2007 graduate of Waunakee High School. Her and I have 2 children. Everett is 7 and Elle is 5. I have 15 years experience in the electrical industry, starting off as an apprentice, worked myself up to a general foreman. During that time, I had the opportunity to work on several projects like the Sunbury High School, Verona High School, along with a bunch of other projects. Since then, I've taken on the role of project manager. My most recent project I've been on is One City School Design Build Project in Winona. So my role in this project would be project manager, electrical side. I feel like I bring a lot of experience of both the field personnel side and the management side to keep the project on schedule, under budget, those sorts of things.
John Weeks, been with Globalcom Technologies, which is our technology division of Westfall and Company. Been with Globalcom for about 14 years, 25 years in the industry. My role in the project is to be part of the project from day one, from the design assist phase through the procurement phase and construction and owner training and closeout, and along with service and maintenance agreements, specifically focused on technologies for the school system. A little bit about myself. I did some time ago, I'm a little bit older, but I did help Waunakee get to the state championship drumline in the late 90s. So we took the trophy a few times. So the Fitzgibbon brothers, I did teach and train them through the years. So they moved on to other things and doing professional stuff up there. Waunakee alum as well.
So kind of going through the bullet points we want to talk about here. The first one being the ability to meet the project schedule through both resources and procurement. The schedule that we're looking at right now being for the elementary school, first and foremost of 16 months. We don't see any concerns about this. Josh is going to get a little bit more into detail about what the 16-month schedule in elementary school right around the 150,000 square feet that we've done several of those. That should be no problem. If you want to talk a little more about procurement.
Yeah, kind of projecting into that, we're kind of averaging probably 14 electricians on that project, peaking at about 20. Again, like Ryan said, very comfortable in that aspect. We're seeing our big impacts right now in our industry is procurement and lead times on equipment like switchboards and panel boards and transformers and fire alarm equipment. So on a project, especially like this, being a design assist, as we become part of the team, what we like to do is get with that design team as soon as possible. Get those stuff that we know are hard to get these days, get that stuff designed, get it developed, so we can get it out to vendors, get the submittals back, get that stuff approved, and get going on that stuff getting purchased as soon as possible, barring a good design. And that used to be where that was kind of the end of it, right? Vendors would give us lead times. They would either get us that stuff on that day or they would beat those days a lot of times. But these days it's not that way anymore. So that's now purchasing that equipment is almost the start for us. What we've been really striving for is having weekly meetings with the vendors, and the manufacturers. So whether it be a Square D or an Eaton or a Siemens, bringing that manufacturer in on the weekly meetings and going line by line down that equipment to ask the question, is it still on track? Are we still tracking to have this equipment on time to keep on schedule? And if it is, great. But if it's not, and they say, hey, a good example was just a few weeks ago, I had a project that we had this weekly meeting on, and a panel board that we came up on was delayed by a month. So it allowed me to ask the question, why? And their response was that they were missing a 60 amp breaker in the panel, and they didn't have it. They didn't know when they're going to receive it. So it was an opportunity for us to say, okay, what can we do to solve this? And can we go up to a different vendor and procure that breaker? And that's what we did. We went to a different vendor. We found it on the shelf. We purchased it. We canceled it in that original order. Panel board still came on time. We had the breaker. Everything kept on schedule. So that is what Westfall has been striving to do, especially in these days, is to be open communication between manufacturer to vendor to Westfall and Company to the general contractor to the owner. So everybody knows that our procurement is on time, or if it's not, why is it not on time? And what are we doing to resolve the issue and get that stuff coming to keep the project on schedule. So I feel like that's what we're very strong at.
Yeah, and one thing I know on one of my other projects, we just had a meeting with the vendors and manufacturers yesterday or on Friday. And what that brings to light is all these little nuances. In the past, we never used to ask that question about why are we delaying this stuff? It would just be, well, the year's delayed a week. I guess we got to wait a week now. Now it's forcing us to dive into that. And if these problems are solvable, we would have never been able to find that in the past. And it has really helped recently because it's way more challenging these days to get this material. And that's what's been the biggest challenge on these projects going forward.
It plus gives the whole team, I think, transparency between manufacturer, distribution, contractor, and the owner. Really helps drive that from the get-go. And even in the design phases, if we're identifying long lead times, and I can talk from like the fiber piece or even the network gear piece from the owner perspective, is what are some acceptable equivalents so they'll perform and behave the correct way of what it's designed from the performance specifications. So the transparency really helps with that. And I've seen it on the electrical side and the technology side. Getting done with the project too, where we were really working on the front end with the owner. In fact, spring of 2021, where the electronic gear was just starting to slip, and we really said, hey, we should really put that network switch order in from the owner perspective. They did. We're so glad they did because they were ahead of the curve and were able to commission that project on time and get kids to school without doing a temporary solution or say Latin terms with a Band-Aid solution. So we're feathering our cap on that project just to work hand in hand to really identify what's going on in the marketplace before it really hit. And then we're hearing all these other stories in the area, 18 months to 2 years of network switches. So really, that's to the point, there's that transparency and get ahead of it with everybody.
So you guys have built schools here.
Yeah.
Our school is probably going to be relatively similar to these other schools that what is the longest lead time item that you're going to have to
Speaking on the electrical side, the switchboards and the generators, those are going to be the longest lead time items that we're going to come across.
and what are those lead times? Just testing.
So looking on the, I guess, pessimistic side, if you want to call it that, for a switchboard, it's about a year. And for a generator, it's not much shorter than that.
Right. And for edification of those that may not be familiar, just if you wouldn't mind, share what those were typical, if you would, pre kind of
Sure.
impact.
Yep, so pre-impact, if we were to order a generator, that would probably, I guess, speaking from recent experience on the Sunbury projects, the generator we ordered there was about 24 to 30 weeks. So that was probably what I would say the longest lead time item on that project. Then a switchboard for comparison would have been about the 24-week period.
So back generator.
Yep, we were using a backup generator. So because of that, it's extremely important that we would get in, and we would want to work with the design team to make sure that those two pieces are at the front end of design. And we know what we can, I guess, modify, for lack of a better word, going forward. If we don't necessarily know 100% what all the breakers going in that switchboard are going to be, we can identify the ones that are going to be the problem ones and make sure that at least those are nailed down so that we can get in the production line. And if we need to order breakers on the side that we would field install, honestly, it's really not an additional cost. It's just something we can do to get around waiting and just pushing off this order, because that's what would be a detriment to these projects. And I know
So if a generator was delayed, it would hold back the open.
it could.
Life
Yeah.
safety.
Life safety.
From a life safety perspective, Jack, for emergency lighting stuff.
So from that technology perspective, so fiber is anywhere from 24 weeks to a year out. Pre-pandemic, that was 4 to 6 weeks. Bigger item is the IP clock speaker system that the district has. That's pushing about 8 to 10 months. Pre-pandemic, again, 4 to 6 weeks. That's due to the circuitry in the box itself. On the security side, the card access, the HID readers, and also the boards that they have delayed. So there's a lot of cascading going on. We're hoping, we're seeing that will improve, but there's so much backlog. It's hard to unbury the backlog in the whole industry as a whole, global. It's a big deal. So, but that's why we want to be a part of the team in the front end to identify those things, release those approvals with the design and the design approvals, get those in the hopper soon and in the can soon. So those long lead times are already secure, and we can move on with the rest of the design clarifications of the project in the design phase.
So they have a lot of stuff coming from China.
Good portion. On the circuit, on the board side, on the electronic side, yeah, very good portion. Very good portion. I know they're building a plant down in Arizona, but I don't think they can build it fast enough to offset the backlog.
And that's why it's so important, just get with the design team right away. And, you know, we're very good at finding solutions, you know. Let's say we bought a switchboard from Eaton or Square Eaton. You know, we don't commit 100% to that. If there's a breaker that is just being a problem, or if there's there's many things that, you know, components that go in the switchboard, but we can identify those issues that we're trying to get and then come up with solutions from different vendors or different manufacturers to outsource to make those lead times better right now.
Yeah, and one of Josh's projects, we actually found that a custom switchboard was, and you hear custom, you always think the first two things, it's gonna take longer, it's gonna cost more. In this case, it didn't do either. It was both cheaper and we were able to get it faster because we were able to build it to the specifications of that job, where we just had problems getting the main breaker for the specified year.
Yeah,
What's it due to aftermarket support?
So that's something that we've been pretty much working with our vendors and manufacturers. They need to provide that support. If it's Eaton, for example, and we decide we buy Eaton breakers, but from a different vendor, they're new breakers. It's just that this vendor had them in stock. The manufacturer was pulling them out of the production line in order to make them. So it's easier to get the stock item and quicker to get the stock item than to wait for Eaton to actually get them out of their development line to build their board. They'll still honor that because they're still Eaton breakers. We'll still have that conversation with them on the front end so that your warranty is not affected, and all the back end support's not affected. We've had no problem doing that. And I guess,
Got about 7 minutes for time.
gotcha. And I guess I'll come back because community involvement is something important we want to hit on, but this kind of goes into our pre-con efforts and our financial portion. So the financial portion and budget management. We spent a lot of our efforts on these design assist jobs on the pre-construction side of things because we think it's important to, you know, if we're going to be given this opportunity to work with the design team, we want to make sure we get as much of a leg up as we can. The pandemic and the equipment shortages and procurement delays, that all kind of plays into it because, like we've already talked about, we can work to get the stuff designed early so we can order it early. But the bigger part of it, once we get through that piece, is constructability, making sure that, you know, you guys have a budget you want to work within, but you also want a product that you want to get on the output. And we got our jobs to make those two things come together. So on the front end of these jobs, we don't just look at, well, what's the final design going to end up being? We're looking to see, are these panel boards the way that, just something as simple as, are these panel boards where they're placed in the building the best places to put them? Are they constructible? On a previous project, and I guess I'm speaking specifically about Sun Prairie, we noticed that the electrical rooms weren't stacked originally right on top of each other, first and second floor, but they could have been. So we suggested moving the panels so that they were right above the ones on the first floor. And what that does is it shortens all of those conduit and wire lines. It allows us to just straight up conduit. It's much quicker. We're able to get the stuff installed. We don't need to worry about construction sequencing as much because you're right on top of each other. And it let us get a little bit of a leg up. We've also gone through and identified areas. Lighting is always a big piece of our budget. And when you're going through the project and looking at these different areas of the building, there's typically trends. We'll identify areas of the building that are more important to have more aesthetically pleasing light fixtures. And those areas just lend themselves to being a little bit more expensive. So we'll identify those areas, put out the alternates, and then if it all works within the budget, then that's great. But now at least we can put out those options to show, here's areas where maybe we can cut costs if you prefer to spend it a little bit more on some other part of the job, if it's security, if it's finishes, if it's HVAC. And I know low voltage is another piece of that.
Yeah, and that's a good point with the closets, telecommunications room being on top of each other between floors, because it has more manageability between for the fiber the infrastructure, so we're not going across the building, and that saves time and money from the initial installation. That saves, some that money for future other needs in the budget. So if we put in more security or into like the more cameras in a certain area, there's a desired need in that space. Definitely.
Yeah, the budget that we put together for this job, it isn't a like hard budget number. That's strictly our best estimate, knowing the systems that you use at your schools, knowing what our historical information comes together. That's simply, this is how much it could be based on what we know. But if that's too much, if it's not as much as you thought, it's a starting point. And that pre-construction is where we devote most of our effort to make sure we really nail it in. For whatever the end result ends up being, we like to know it as early as we can. And it also helps because if we need to manage this budget, we can plan our work too alongside of it. If we know we're going to have, like Josh mentioned before, if we're going to average out 14 electricians on the job site, if we don't put as much effort, maybe we end up running the job with 15, and that one extra guy for the entire length of the project is a cost that now we maybe could have avoided. So it's just really important to us that on the front end of the job, we devote as much of our resources as we can to make it fair and smooth. So kind of hit on a lot of the financial stuff there. I guess community involvement is another big piece we kind of want to talk about. And we're a little disappointed. Mike and Westfall, one of our owners, would have wanted to be here because she is a Waunakee resident. She was really looking forward to telling you guys that her daughter is going to be in first class at the new middle school. So it's one thing she wanted to.
Pretty proud of that.
But two of our owners are actually Waunakee residents, and they moved here both specifically for the school district. We're also supporters of some of the local festivals. I know the Oktoberfest, recent one here, we've supported in the past. And we also, one thing that we've done recently on the Madison School project is we're very heavily involved with youth apprenticeship. So we'll hire students out of the school districts and work for us. So they would actually get involved with the trades, learning what it's like to be an electrician. And right now we do have one student from the Madison School District that we hired. I think right after we started on that project, they showed some interest, and we go out and seek out these students because our experience with them has been really good. And it's always nice to, see people who want to be involved with the trades and get a chance to be that entry for them. It's something that we're very proud of, and something that we would absolutely want to do. I know another project that we've worked on in the past is bringing our electricians to shop classes and going through doing a class on electrical construction. It's not something that people usually think of when at least you're in a high school level. Usually it's, construction work, you're going to build the buildings. It's not always diving as deep as saying, I want to be an electrician. And we like to bring that to new students to make sure that they're aware that this is a good opportunity that you can search out once you're done with high school.
Also, we're a sponsor and donor for the Fab Lab back a few years ago, involved in that process and that development up there. It was a really cool project to be a part of for the community. We also work with Enders Manufacturing quite a bit and many other jobs, really large modular data center built fit outs down in Edgerton. We work with Enders quite a bit on that.
It's just a great community for being a part of it.
Yeah, the Fab Lab turned out great.
Yeah.
30 seconds. Yeah, one quick question. If everyone else does.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
No more questions, we're out of time. No more questions, we're out of time.
Good time.
I give you electric construction.
Welcome.
So, need to get settled here, and then I'm gonna start the clock. Actually, 20 minutes, 15. Present 5 Q&A, but we'd like to throw some questions at you during it. So.
Sure, yeah.
Ready? All right. Rip.
All right, well,
Thanks for having us. I'm Rod Howard from Electric Construction. I'm a principal there, been an owner since 2000.
Yeah, I'm Mitch Tanner, Field Operations Manager. I've been around since 2005.
Jay Stassy, estimating and project management since 2004.
And I'm Kyle Corbally, project supervisor. I've been here since 2017.
Where you get that?
Okay.
We're rolling, yeah.
All right. Well, I know Jay handed out the first page here. It has to do with a schedule that it's just a baseline schedule that we always start with on our projects to try to get a gauge and a feel, not only from the general contractor, but from the owner as well. You know, Kyle and Mitch have been heavily involved in development of these schedules, and I'll kind of hand it off to those guys to expand on what we have and you guys have in front of you.
Yeah, I think the schedule is a good baseline. You can see some of our items on the side on the left here. And I think to get this project going right out of the gates in the right direction, we're likely going to be heavy in the RFI process at the beginning of the project. That allows us to get the information we need and the answers we need to get going on the electrical installations early in the project. You can see we're pretty heavy on the manpower at the beginning of the project, and that is by design. So I could see this project going into new constructions. We have the luxury of underground installations. I could see this first project relying heavily on underground installations for electrical. So that puts us in a pretty good position when it comes time to rough walls, that all of our home runs and things are in place as the walls get roughed, and allows us to start the wire pulling process very soon in the project. And you know, I'd be asking the general contractor to accelerate electric room build outs and get that kind of work going right off the bat. You know, Kyle, at the same time, I mean, upon starting the job, he'll be coming into the office and looking at the overhead side of things, getting familiar with ceiling types, ceiling heights.
Yeah, looking at drawings and working with Andrew Baker in the BIM department, our design, putting coordination and clash meetings and putting together a good plan. Working with the design team while we do that. Like Mitch said, our first goal usually is underground. You can save a lot of time with dirt. It gives you time for overhead and putting together a plan there as well. So
It gets us in and out fairly quick in the front of the schedule, and allows us to get our materials off the job too. At a time, we usually save some days in the schedule by going heavy on the front end. So.
When I look, just a quick question here, when I look at electrical work, you got the roll of numbers, are those number of men?
Yeah.
So yeah, don't look at the bottom line, look at the top line where it says in the red, what is it, the fifth line down, where that line of, that's the number of men anticipated during, and those are during months, individual months throughout the schedule. So
We'd be running at peak at 20 people.
Yeah, with the one-year project, I think it's close.
you know, yeah, right now, as far as the capacity of our company, we have ran anywhere between, we average right around 100 field employees. We've gone up as high as 120, 125. 100 is kind of our sweet spot right now, where we feel we can manage projects efficiently and keep everything on pace and on schedule and on budget. So
I guess going off that, I will be in charge, or maybe not necessarily in charge of, but working with the design team to control the budget. Cost management was a big part of this current job that we have. It's a big reason we got the project. It is another school in the Madison School District. And what we did was we worked off of our original budget.
the general contractor had some cost savings needs really with what they were able to work with. We made some suggestions as far as light fixture types, quantities of, for instance, quantities of data drops, systems, working with different vendors with systems to try and get the numbers down. And we were able to do that in the end. It took a couple rounds of design. It took some coordination and work with the school district to make sure we're meeting their needs. But in the end, we were able to do that. And throughout the years, we have done several schools, elementary schools, high schools. Sometimes the design team puts designs it around maybe a high school. Maybe there's some design, some work we can do to maybe get it down to an elementary school instead of designing it towards a high school. That might be one way to do it. So I think we have the experience to work with the school and design team to get to that budget. And
You're working on schools now in the Madison area. What are, and those schools are probably very similar to what we're doing.
Yeah.
What are your long lead time? What's the longest lead time?
right now, it's the switchgear and panel boards.
And what is it?
Upwards of a year at this point. We're hoping that that'll get better. A lot of that has to do with just the breakers, materials to make the breakers. Hopefully that's getting better. Another one is depending on what access control systems you have. Sometimes that is a longer lead time, but not quite that long. Really, it's that distribution.
And the last couple projects, we had some issues with card readers. I did a field project. That was one of the last things that come in was card readers. IT equipment, switches that can be important for the drill. But they came in, but we did order them part of the project to time.
So what do you do when things aren't on schedule?
So we have a couple current projects that we always try to stay. We get weekly updates from our vendors, finding out where the materials are along the production process. They're in direct contact with the factories. We try to, well, we don't try. We watch those, like I said, weekly. If we identify or see something tracking the wrong direction, a couple projects we've had to adjust and make some suggestions to the A&E team. And we have had to buy some custom switchboards, which there is a premium for, other than just buying something from Square D or, Putnam Hammer or Siemens or GE. There are custom switchboard manufacturers out there that can put together switchboards using OEM product, and they're UL listed. But what we have been seeing the last couple months, lead times on switchboards, that was a big one. They were up to 60 to 70 weeks. They have been slowly trending downwards, and their lead times are down around 50 to 52 weeks, like Jay was saying.
What do you do when, what does that do from a customer standpoint, putting these custom products in? How do you support that?
Support, so they're UL listed. They use OEM circuit breakers, fuse buckets. So it's all equipment that's standard. It's just not going through the big manufacturing, the three big ones, Square D, Putnam Hammer, or GE, or Siemens. Hopefully we won't have to go that route. If the trend keeps going like it is, hopefully those switchboards come back into the normal lead time on switchboards before, prior to what, 2018? Was right around 16 weeks. Was a normal lead time for a switchboard and panel boards were right around 4 to 6 weeks. Now they're 50 weeks and 25 weeks respectively.
Kind of to Jack's point, does it put anything in jeopardy for us, the end consumer, if something goes bad with anything? I mean, you say they're normal components, but
They're UL listed, they have warranties similar, the same as or better than even the big manufacturer, 3 big manufacturer warranties. So
So we're working with people to buy a product that is custom because still put some components in there. Does it support it? Or is this custom host that supports it?
the custom house holds the warranty because they hold the UL listing on that equipment. And they in turn get represented then by the manufacturers they bought the products from. So there is another layer there, but there is support. Warranty.
So,
Training, that kind of-
so if it doesn't work, you come back to you
Yes.
and you figure out how.
Yep.
10, 15 years from now. Last,
Like I said, it's basically it's a structure, a switchboard structure that's got called hammer breakers in it, or 30 breakers in it, whatever they can get. They'll use all the same manufacturer though in that assembly. So there isn't a mismatch of square D and pellet hammer. It'll be all one manufacturer of components in that. That's the switchboard.
please.
I guess going on to that, I mean, material procurement and, long lead items, we found it very, advantageous for our guys in the field, like Kyle, supervisor, and Mitch, our field operations guy, to be involved right in the design process right away. Working with the AE team.
And when I first started out, I said would be likely heavy in the RFI process. I'm sure that's how we're gonna have to go about this is start asking the right questions at the beginning of the project, get our answers, we're gonna need that for design. And I think that's how we're gonna go.
So we're gonna need to go on this with the items that are identified as long lead times.
Yeah, I think as soon as a contract is given that we started, both him and I, on day one, getting into it. Wrapping our head around schedule. Requirements of the building.
You hear a lot about labor shortages and so forth. You mentioned 100 field staff. Are they words or just contract?
These are all employees of electric construction. And we have been fortunate enough to keep our employees for quite a while. I think the majority of our employees have been at electric construction 15 plus years, which I think that's, which we involve apprentices. So we have an apprenticeship program where we bring those guys on and work them, from, basically a material handler up through journeyman. It's a 5-year program.
No, we've had very little turnover in the last few years. We've added.
Are you guys union or?
So as far as, procurement, BIM is a big thing, BIM and prefab. Kyle and Mitch have both been involved on projects where we have extensively used BIM.
BIM was very handy. I spent 5 years out at Epic. And everything at Epic changes that fast. But, with doing, layout and getting everything ahead of time, we prefab multiple electricals. With pretty good success. So using BIM and getting the layout and through all that, you find issues, you find ideas for prefab, ways to save time. Building information model. Essentially, we take the entire building and put it in the computer. And it allows the customer to view it pre-construction as well. So create the models. It would be great to get input. Especially what we recognize what might look like. Facilities team, we welcome to do it. About that before we start prefabrication and installation.
We find it's huge to have the facilities team look at that model before install, just for servicing equipment, access to certain components. It's just, you know, you're gonna live with that building for 30, 40, 50 years, and you don't wanna have something where you can't
Yeah.
service and maintain it.
At the airport right now, where the facilities team bi-weekly coming in, getting the models, giving their input. It's a very nice tool to have, because then you know, you got a happy customer throughout the project. Surprised at the end.
4 minutes.
All right, I would think one of our strengths really is our experience in schools, and we have come up to find a lot of efficiencies and, means and methods, products, trying to use the most current products if it makes sense for the school and the type of facility you guys want. And just open channels of communication are always huge with the owner and the engineer, along with the general contractor, to make and have a successful project right from the design phase.
Yeah, one of the questions was about community involvement, and we do have a number of people that live in Waunakee, work in Waunakee. John Madigan is our service manager and our safety director. He couldn't be here today, but he is in the district, and I am a youth wrestling coach. I signed up this year for the Waunakee wrestling program, and then Kyle lives in the district as well. Yeah, we moved here in 2014, solely for the school district. Now I've got a 6-year-old, she's a first grader in Arboretum, and we're invested into it. She's an only child, and we want to see to it that she has a good upbringing, a good child. So we find our ways to involve ourselves, both with school and local sports. Volunteer at the Village Center coaching softball. Volunteer at the school district reading first graders. We find our ways to stay involved with the community.
How do you interact with our students? Sir, do you have a team for our students?
There is other school districts we've worked hand in hand with the tech ed departments. We've hired students that, whether they want to come in and maybe work on the BIM side of it, in the Revit design. We've had hired youth apprentices. I'm the chairman of the apprenticeship committee, and one of our big push, with the state, is to have youth apprentices where you're involved. You can start as a junior in high school and actually complete the first year of your apprenticeship, the day school portion of it. We're heavily involved in that. But there's always opportunities to, as I said, inside and outside. We've had summer help that if they want to just get, find out if electrical and just construction in general is going to be good for them, just getting to use some tools under a closely supervised. And
So you can hire 17-year-olds?
Yep.
17.
Minute for one more question.
I'm sorry, I'm asking all the questions.
Great questions.
Doing a good job, Jeff.
I guess there was
Go ahead.
we did put a couple budgets together for both schools, a sample budget in that handout there. It's second and third pages.
Right, and this is kind of what we would follow as far as updating. What you would probably see coming through, whether it's first, second, third revisions. Just kind of break that out across the spreadsheet and just kind of follow it as we go.
see what.
Yep. For cost control.
When you put these budgets together, do you use 5 or 7?
They're a little thick, you think? Is that what's going on? No, those budgets were put together off of a lot of historical data and current market pricing. Yeah, I know. So.
But open mass standard lead is 45.
All right, thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jay, it's all yours.
All right, welcome. So we talked prior, 15 minutes and 5 Q&A, but Jack's been asking some great questions before we go. So we'll give you 20 minutes. Starts now. Get your introduction, the 3 topics. Want to kick us on?
I can do that. Steve Lindley, I'm president of Freeport, and I've got a team here with, he's the project manager, Johnson is the project manager for the HVAC project. Brian is our vice president of plumbing. Brad is our vice president in charge of HVAC, and Tony is the project manager for our plumbing. So appreciate the time, appreciate the opportunity to come and have this discussion with you today. I don't want to belabor things like I tend to sometimes. I hope these guys get kicked off. I'm trying to address your questions. Anything we can to talk about.
So, yeah, we were told to address 3 questions specifically in this meeting, so we're gonna try to attack those. One was our Cooper's ability to meet the schedule, whether that's manpower, resources, or procurement, how we handle materials and equipment. Most of you know, we've just built this huge facility right down the road within 10 minutes of here. And what we've done for a number of projects through this pandemic, dealt with a number of projects with Vogel, being able to, in a scenario like this, we design partners on the job. We can help guide the design of materials, not the selection of materials, but maybe manufacturers to know what's available, what's the most cost-effective quality. But that'll help us guide this purchase stream as soon as possible. We can store those materials at our shop. In addition to those, we have longstanding agreements with major manufacturers based on the size of our company that allow us to hold pricing for certain things that has assisted a lot on a number of projects that we're doing. I don't want to add anything to that as far as materials go, but then from a resource labor standpoint, we put quality foremen on our projects. So those quality foremen steer these manpower and not just managing the manpower on the job site, but looking for opportunities to advance the schedule. A great example of this, we're working on Vogel Brothers and there's some delays in the project on a certain job, and not to belabor the job, but we took advantage and we're installing plumbing before the footings were even there, to take advantage of opportunities within the schedule to assist and push things ahead where possible with all the delays out there in the market. We have all the staff available. Plumbing has 130, HVAC has over 250 currently on staff, and that's maintained constantly. It does fluctuate slightly, but those are constants over the last few years.
Is that field staff, Brian?
That's field staff for the 2 trades that we're talking about today. We also like to go through a resource loaded work plan that not only manages this particular job, but looks across all of our jobs, whether that's HVAC or plumbing, to make sure that we're not overburdening ourselves with current workload, constantly bouncing that back and forth. And then again, just mentioning our fabrication shop, we have all these lean processes, state-of-the-art tools and equipment we can talk about that, whether that's cutting pipe or managing pipe, that all works into helping and assisting with our labor on the job. But we all know there's deadlines and delays that are going to come along, and we want to make sure that we're going to get the end dates.
We just did that touch on that a little bit, Brian, is that. So we just bought, we were in Madison since 1950. Just bought 150 acres out of the forest, so maybe you driven by there on Highway 19, just east of 51. We built our new fabrication shop out there because that's really how we're reinvesting our money into the mechanical side of our business. So that was a $5 million investment plus in that. And it is a state-of-the-art fabrication. So, the guys here and some other guys in the organization went around the country to peer groups for a number of years and really figured out what we wanted to do, because pre-construction is a more and more important part of what we're doing, and to have the facilities to do that properly was a big deal to us. And so we think we have honestly one of the best shops in the country. Some of the things up in stainless steel areas, we have a clean room, we have paint booths, we have all these things that we've always wanted. And before when we were kind of grew up, we had a bunch of different warehouses that we were operating on. To expand and really kind of look at the facilities you have, not unlike the schools, and we decided to reinvest in capital in that. So I think that is something that really supports efficiency in what we're doing, allows us to get a lot of things done in the shop that don't have to be done in the field. Again, kind of more lean process, and also allows us to get materials, store materials. We do fabricate a lot of our own, products that can be installed over there too. And so I think that is something that we do offer that I think will really help.
So just to put a bow on the whole schedule, procurement, and material management, a great example, I'm just going to use the Sufficer form we do the Bucks Arena. We're the only major subcontractor, HVAC, electrical, flooring, out of everybody, not to get a delay letter. So we line up and make sure the schedule's there and going to make sure the job's going to get done. So if we want to talk about local participation and community involvement, Steve, you want to touch on that maybe?
I can. I've lived in the past two presidents, myself and Dave Orr. Dave was over on Dover Court for years. I moved just out of Q. His daughter was an EMT with the Waunakee here in town, and there's a lot of us that live in the community. I've been here 16 years. My kids moved in Southbridge, same neighborhood as you. But my kids ended up starting in Prairie because our grade was already too full for my daughter. So they started kindergarten, second grade, and we've been part of the community since then. A ton of people in town and a lot of people, we were involved in all this stuff, and our friends are involved in all those things, post-prom, project graduation, coaching football, all those things in the community. So this is pretty important to me individually, and I plan on being here a long time yet. I'm really proud of this community and the schools. The schools were great for my kids, and I know the others that that live here, the schools have been great for the kids. And in fact, it's exchanged Randy because one thing I didn't know about the schools, what we're going to do with the middle school, the current ones. So he's telling me what the plans are for that, which is pretty cool. So this is important to me. I think it's important to a lot of the people we have working for us. We have a lot of them, in the area. And I think the other thing too, since we've moved, we're recruiting more and more people from Waunakee to work at it. Right, we're just down the street. It's a good employment base for us out here. We offer good jobs for people, and I think that's going to be more of a part of the community. So I know that again, our employees that live here everywhere, they do all sorts of things behind the scenes, I guess, because nobody knows who the coach for the football team works for or who's doing those things, but we're out there doing it all the time. And I'm proud to be part of the community. I think this would be great for me personally to be involved in this. So, Brad?
Yeah, I'll add one little more piece. I mean, I'm one of those that's from Waunakee. I didn't move to Waunakee, but actually did my K-12 education here, and I teased Jay I was going to wear my letter jacket today, but it didn't fit very well. But anyway, it's really special for us that are in this business to build buildings for people that you don't do it every year. We do it every day. We enjoy what we do. That's why we're here. But to have a connection to a district like this or a community like this, especially one that has given me an education that I've grown up in this community in my life, it's really fun and exciting to do. And I think that's what is a connection for me and some of us that are in the room as well. So I look forward to the opportunity. It's something as a target I've had for a while. I've been a part of the Hooper General Heating organization for almost 15 years now. And this has been a community and schools that you build to figure out how we do more work for the district. We do work here in Waunakee. We work in, at Nord Gear and SPL and some of the other larger organizations that are in this community, but we certainly would love to do more for the district. My piece as far as, kudos to you guys for figuring out this is going to be a design assist project. There's a lot of projects where we get a set of plans and they said, all right, these look great, you bid it, you win the bid, you're gonna start tomorrow, and we're already too late. With the supply chain issues that we're having and have had for the past couple of years, it's very critical that we have enough time to plan and make sure that we're giving our manufacturers enough lead time. In my case, for a lot of the purchased equipment, air handlers, chillers, boilers, that kind of stuff that are out there. So we want to help with that procurement process, make sure that you guys are getting what you want and what you need as well. Not spending more money than you need to, but spending the right amount of money for the right product in the end. You know, we try to balance first cost along with life cycle cost, along with maintenance cost, to make sure that hey, it's not always about, you know, the cheapest opportunity, the cheapest first cost that you guys have, but hey, I'm going to save $5 here, but it's going to cost me $10 over the next 2 years, right? That doesn't make sense to anybody. So we enjoy the opportunity to sit down with the design team, with the owners themselves, the people that are going to operate these facilities, and take a look at where we could possibly make things better for them. Give you opportunities that maybe the design team didn't think of, maybe another contractor didn't think of on buildings that you've done in the past. A little example of that, excuse me, is a job that we're all working on in this room. It's a large project for us. It's a pharmaceutical job that we do a lot of. For us, it's probably a $30 million job. We gave a design team, which happens to be an engineer out of East, we gave them an opportunity to change nothing more than just the manufacturer that was providing a particular piece of equipment, saved them $2.5 million just with that. The engineer was very set. No, this is what I need. This is who does it. We gave them the opportunity to look at option B, and it saved them $2.5 million, right? Those are the things that we can bring to the table for a player that maybe you guys haven't seen or worked with in the past that says, hey, let's see what you guys can do. Let's see what options you've got for us to consider. So we kudos for that. Thank you for that. And I think another real important piece of how we go about this design assist process is we engage everybody on our team with you. It's not just us that are sitting in this room, whether it be a project manager, whether it be Brian and I as leading the different departments. We bring our foremen into the table and say, hey, look at this design. What do you see? Are there opportunities to maybe save some money, to make the pipe or the duct that Steve was talking about more efficient? Those are the people that we bring in, along with our designers, what we call our coordinators. Those are the people that have been in the field. They've been in the trade. They've been doing this a long time. They're the ones that are drawing the building. They know what they can and can't do. They know how to make it fit. So it's bringing all those players to the table in the beginning that I think is the most bang for your buck, if you will, and that you're the greatest opportunity for you to save some money on your project and give you what you need, not necessarily what one person's vision might be. And then I think what's really important is that we work closely with the construction team with Vogel, like Brian mentioned. We work a lot with Vogel, and one of the things that I think we really bring to the table with the team is that we help with the scheduling process, right? It doesn't help Jay to say, you know, this is my schedule and I'm going to pour concrete 3 weeks before or a month before we're ready for concrete, and all of a sudden we got to go back and say drill anchors instead of set them. We don't do that anymore, right? We do a fully coordinated building where we're giving you the most savings. And that's the opportunity that we can bring to the table with the scheduling vision as well. So those are a couple of the items. I mentioned really, getting involved early. That's the best opportunity for us to give you a cost saving impact. We give you some target budget numbers. Does this fit what you guys are looking to spend? Do we need to spend a little bit less? Do you want to get a little bit more, whether it be quality or a lower cost maintenance opportunity as well? So I think the last piece that I want to add is really the geothermal. Both of these projects seem to be at least slated for geothermal. I don't know if you guys are set on that or that's something that you're considering, but Hooper and the experience that we have in the general geothermal field is really second to nobody else in this area, and one might argue nationally as well. We do significant amount of geothermal work. You guys are all very familiar, I assume, with the EPIC project out in Verona. We've been the contractor out there since day one. We've done all those wells. Right next to that is the Verona High School. We were the HVAC contractor or the Hooper, the contractor that did the work on that project as well. That's a full geothermal project. Kind of a feather in our cap is Ford over in Dearborn. We just finished up a major project over there that's geothermal. So really, really experts in that field. There's things that we can bring to the table that maybe others haven't considered. what type of wells, what type of tubing, that kind of stuff that's out there. The gentleman that's not in this room, that's our expert in geothermal, he's on the Geothermal Wisconsin Board of Directors. So just give you an example of the team that we can put together and bring value to you guys in your organization. Hopefully bring you some ideas that maybe hasn't come to your mind before.
Just to build on that supply chain. That, you know, parts that you need for schools on your shelf. So,
If we were able to build.
We say yes.
No, we rely heavily on manufacturers too, right?
I guess, so kidding aside, you know, when you sit down and take a look at it, what is your longest lead time? I mean, you know, you've done the geothermal, you've done the schools, you know, ours aren't too much different than you've probably done in the past. What is the longest lead time?
You know, it depends a little bit.
And how long is that?
Yeah, it's right now, what we're seeing is chillers, for example. If you're going geothermal, I haven't seen a design, but I'm assuming you got some sort of water to water heat pump that's producing inside there, or you're doing water source heat pumps. I don't know which design is yet, but those chillers can be 30 weeks plus. Air handlers, if we're going custom air handlers, can be 35 weeks, that kind of thing. That's what's out there right now. We are seeing it soften a little bit. And I don't know if that's because a lot of us contractors said, uh-oh, we got a problem. Let's get all of our orders in tomorrow because otherwise we're not going to get our equipment. And so that just ramped up the demand significantly. And now the manufacturers start to catch up. So you're seeing it a little bit, but I wouldn't take my foot off the gas necessarily. If you guys need to be in these schools at this date, I would say, let's get these long lead pieces of equipment identified and then make sure that we have the opportunity to procure those in the time frame.
So there's, to answer the other half of your question, also there's equipment and then there's stuff we have on the shelf. And so we've had this huge facility with storage of roof drains to pipe to fittings to all different kinds of things. And the supply chain issue is a hit or miss on all different kinds of things. So we have the ability to have all this stuff that we can say, hey, we need one of these parts here. We can replace it later when we need it for your school. Use it there. And that's become clutch for a lot of these projects, like high-end projects we do, because we have it on the shelf because we have this facility.
I think you just can't really do that with the equipment. It's at the challenge.
But for these onesie twosies, and these are the things that are supply chain driven, where there might not be a part A or part B, but we a lot of times fortunately have that part because we have this warehouse.
And then raw materials, like in most cases, we're pipe in metal, right? We make ductwork. So we buy it in gigantic rolls of steel and we're buying it months, 6 months, a year ahead of time. So we're not waiting until, oh, we just secured this project. Now we need to procure the materials for it. We'll have a lot of that in inventory because we try to time the market, right? Try to give you guys the best value and not try to buy it whenever we need it, just when it's the best price. We have a lot of that. We have some space to store some of that now, so we have a lot of it. And we worked out deals with our supply chain and that, okay, we just bought this much metal or this much pipe, but they're storing it for us and they bring it as we need it. We've already procured it. It's already ours, slotted for us. So that's the kind of stuff that we've tried to do. We haven't had a delay through all of this challenge, call it the last year and a half or 2 years. We haven't had a significant delay caused by the Hooper group on any one of our trades because we've tried to plan and make sure that we meet those needs. And we're working on a huge project right now with the Vogel team, and we are pushing the engineer very hard to give us the information we need to make sure we can procure equipment because we don't want to be late. I don't think the Vogel team's going to care, right? If the engineer didn't give us the information to say, they're pointing the finger at us, we don't like that. So we're going to help them get to the resolution, get that stuff.
I have one quick resource question. I was just looking through the proposal. So it looks like you had some nice work with the Madison School District. I saw the end dates and it kind of scared me because of the lines with the same timing of the elementary. Can you just talk a little bit more about?
Plumbing wise, we're doing 2 big schools for Madison School District and HV schools. But this summer was the big push on all the schools. So we basically repiped the water piping on 2 entire schools. So that as we move along through the rest of these projects, it's just connecting to what we've done already.
Yeah, basically.
Tony was doing what people follow.
50% of those, the contract value of both of those schools is already in one summer, just to give you an idea of the workload, you know, and they go till 2024. So obviously they align with what Waunakee will be doing, but, you know, by the end of this school year, by the time the Waunakee schools start, they're probably 80 to 90%.
That's the same on HVAC, East High School. If the boiler plant is in, the chiller plant is going in right now. The big hard stuff is done by next summer.
Anyway, do you guys have any labor issues? You know?
I mean, if anybody told you they don't have labor issues today, I'm not sure they're being honest with you. Yes, it's a challenge, but we've been able to overcome a lot of that, right? We're a union contractor. We use multiple sources to bring people into the trades. That's not, you hear the bench, right? We're just gonna pull people off the bench. That's really not the way we do it. We do it from time to time, but we partner with other organizations, whether it's, you know, Boys and Girls Program, whether it's a youth apprenticeship program or whatever else might be there. We try to use those organizations to help feed that funnel for us. And we've been successful. It's that along with finding more efficient ways to do this. I mean, one of the reasons Steve mentioned the facility that we built, it's there because we wanted to prefab more and more, right? We've been doing it for years. We found out we don't have enough space to do it efficiently. So we built a bigger facility. So what's efficient mean? It means we put less labor hours into it, right? So that's what's helping us get better and more efficient with the labor that we do have and improve that.
What do you do with students?
Youth apprentice?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, youth apprentice, I think right now, I apologize, I think we probably have somewhere around 10 in the company when we were, you know, height of summer kind of thing. We'll put them out in the field, we'll put them in the shop, we'll get them exposed to the trade. You have to be a little bit careful, right? We can't go, you know, hey, you gotta go weld X, Y, Z, and they've never welded before. But it really is, and we feel very strong about giving them exposure to what they're doing. We don't hire them to go sweep the floor in the shop every day. That's not what we're looking to do. So that's a field person. We have plenty of them that work in our office too. That say you want to get exposed to engineering, you know, help, they can work with our coordinators, that kind of stuff. So it really depends on what the student's interest is, but we're firm believers in the program. We think it's a great opportunity for the student as well as us. You know, if that's somebody that in the end wants to join the Hooper Corporation, we just want.
We would love to have the opportunity for Waunakee to join we pull from a number of schools. I go to one school and we work with a number of them. Portage is one, we're trying to work with the Forest. We'd like to have another opportunity with all the different trades that Hooper has, and the proximity to Waunakee School would be a great opportunity to get something started, obviously, because kids could come, they're 10 minutes away, whether that's, you know, but it's hard to get kids who want to do this, and it's a great career opportunity. It's hard.
Something that I'm personally passionate about. I sit on, we have this, it's called Wisconsin Energy Workforce Development. So it's Line Energy, Excel, We Energy, MG&E, you know, how to attract young people to trades. Right? And that's more and more of a challenge than it used to be. I sit on the apprenticeship program for our power division, which covers 7 states. And you know, and I think it's just something that, and I've talked to some counselors here when my kids were in school. It's something that I think we need to make sure we expose more kids to. You can make good money doing the trades, right? I mean, my own kids, I have them both, they're both going to lacrosse right now, but senior. But you know, you look at what they can make coming out of school, and it's like, you know, college is great. My kids chose to go to college, but the trades are a good option for a lot of people. I think the more we can expose young people to that, it's a great opportunity for people. And so anything we can do to promote that, like I said, I'm on that Wisconsin Energy Workforce Development Board. I do a lot of stuff for the apprentices. These guys are involved with Apprentice Polster. You know, we have a guy that works for us that just won an award down in Milwaukee last week for the work that he does with young folks and the youth apprenticeship program and all these other, and you know, and the Big Step program, and all these other things where we're trying to funnel people into the trade. So, you know, I personally love an opportunity to come in and work with counselors in school to get people. I mean, that's a big deal.
Line them up already.
I mean, I'm serious. You know, I mean, I it's important.
Well, I think we built our construction program up now. You know, we put the innovation center in, and I think our construction program is really coming.
I'd love to be able to like walk through that with you and see what it's about and
Yeah.
give some
Sure.
comments. I mean, if you want. But I mean, I'd like to, because I just, I didn't grow up in the trades. I'm an accountant by trade. With both my kids from school for accounting. My wife's an accountant, so it's kind of odd. But I'm a huge believer in it and would love to support the school system. And at the end of the day, I will say this, just on a personal note, I don't get involved with all the projects. We have 1,200 people working for us, on the place, whatever. I live here. This is partially going to be lived here. I live in the school district too. I want to make sure we do a good job. And my friends' kids are going to go to these schools, right? That's important. And so if nothing else, I promise you, we will get our best people on this project. People we know will do a good job. These guys are, I'm proud of what they do. I'm proud of what we do as an organization and how we've grown. And I know we will do an excellent job. It's not going to do that. Personally guarantee that. It's very important. I know it's to Brad and everybody else here as well too. But I really don't. Yeah, no, you got it. I forgot that.
All right, well, I appreciate it.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Speed dating.
Oh, we just
Yep, you're good.
you good?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just.
Okay, sounds good. Well, welcome. Got 20 minutes for you today, 15 and 5, but we've been asking questions as we go, so just set the timer for 20. You guys want to start with introductions and then be right into it?
Yeah, so good afternoon. My name is Steve Stumbris. I'm the Executive Vice President at NAMI. Oversee all of our construction operations, so happy to be here with you this afternoon.
I'm Dale Roofer with NAMI, obviously. I am business development and pre-construction. I will be involved in the front end of the project, visiting throughout and then finishing up through the warranty meetings.
Kevin Masterson. I am our Vice President of Plumbing and Mechanical Insulation and will be involved through the entire project as well.
My name is Peter Mueller. I am the project manager for both heating and ventilation, air conditioning, plumbing. I'll be involved from pre-construction all the way through warranty period.
Okay. Keep going, Jim?
Yeah, we're ready to keep going.
All right, so a couple of our key items that Jade relayed to focus on, and the first thing we'll get started about is material and equipment. As we've all been, living through the last several years, that's been a challenge for everybody, no matter what business you're in. So we've been involved in projects like this in the past, and would do the same thing on this project. Is very early in the process, working with the design team on identifying key items that need to be selected, long lead items, both on the HVAC and on the plumbing side of things. And in your packet, we do have some approximate duration. Some of those items we are seeing currently are up to 6 months out. Peter can share on the schedule that he'd be looking at overall, getting those things identified very early. One of the things unique about North American Mechanical, we have a centralized purchasing group. So all of those projects go through just a limited amount of people so that they can really focus on what the market is doing, both from a pricing and availability standpoint. It's not just individual project managers looking out on what their project is doing. The other element that's really unique, we're part of Comfort Systems USA. So at a national level, we have some very powerful purchasing agreements with vendors, both from equipment suppliers as well as commodity purchases. And in some of the most challenging times during the pandemic, when many of our competitors were being put on allocation where they either couldn't get product or it was much more delayed, through those agreements that we had, we were able to continuously have raw materials for producing sheet metal, piping, PVC, that sort of thing, so that we weren't interrupted and our projects were not impacted at all. And with those early equipment selections, that's where we can then work with this team in working through on accelerating those purchasing opportunities, potentially buying multiple packages to really capitalize on what the value is of those. And that really ties right into the overall project schedule. That's where it all begins. And Peter will talk a little bit about that part of it.
Yeah, so ultimately, when we start looking at projects, we always want to start at the back and work our way to the beginning of the project, right? Because the back side of the project is turning it over to the owner. Especially with schools, right? In August, there's teachers, they're looking at, I need to get in my classroom, so we don't want to be delaying that at all for them. It's already a stressful period. So what happens right before we turn the building over? Commissioning. So we want a month of commissioning time to really look at the building, see how it's performing, and get all the kinks worked out before we turn it over to you guys. Prior to commission, we have to start the building. So startup really doesn't, isn't starting the equipment. It starts a couple months before, working with other trade partners on the site, having those meetings early so that we're all on the same page when it rolls around to March, April. We want to start turning on equipment. Everything's ready. The building's clean. We have power. All the systems that are in the building are coming on at that time. To hit those dates, we need to make sure that we have everything in line, material, manpower, and that really would be kicking off in the fall, right? Mobilizing, getting things on site. We have prefabrication shops, so we're going to look at opportunities. So what can we build ahead so that when we're on, if there's a point where we can accelerate the schedule on site, the materials are already there. Grab them, bring them out to the site, we're ready to go. And then BIM coordination, right? We don't want to be holding up the project. The whole point of BIM is to make sure that things go smoothly in the field. So if we can get that done prior to even anyone going on to site, that's ultimately what we're looking at doing. And then obviously everyone's big concern is procuring equipment. Starting with that in spring, making sure that stuff's ordered. Therefore, we have it in the fall when we need it.
So yeah, Peter, that kind of leads into our next thing. We're going to talk a little bit about the finance and the budget management. So there's a form in the handout that we provided, and it's a GM breakdown form, GMP breakdown form. And that form would be for HVAC and/or plumbing. And what we do with this form is, this kind of starts out very early on in the stages of the project at the SD level. This project, at least the initial one, the elementary school, lays out very similar to the intermediate school, based on square footage and the type of building that it is. So the breakdown that I provided here, we provided, is very similar to what you would see. So, the important thing here in your GMP breakdown is your SD budget. It needs to be reasonable and it needs to be accurate to start the budget out. From there, we're looking at all the different types of equipment. As these gentlemen have alluded to, we've got that central purchasing department, which we can use, as an advantage for us and potentially buying out with other projects, which helps us lower the cost of that equipment. Same thing with your pipe fitting materials and your sheet metal materials. It's nice to have that sort of quantity available to you when you're looking at the fabrication portion of it. For our subcontractors, obviously we've got our own controls department, which, the controls are in your district right now. So that would be a benefit to the project overall. And then the geofield installation. I was involved in the intermediate school. I was a project manager there. It's basically the same size building as that, for the new elementary. So very familiar with what's going on with the geo and how that all lays out. And then I think the last thing I want to touch on is our energy system verification. You guys have about a 15-year relationship with our service department. And with that service department comes your annual energy service report. It's something that, we don't do for everybody, but I got to believe it's pretty nice to be able to see where you're at and where you're tracking going forward from a budget standpoint. So once again, this breakdown is for HVAC or plumbing, and lays out pretty nice. So the next thing I want to touch on is this is a cost tracking log that I have in here. And this is just an example of how we handle our pre-construction, because there's a lot of moving parts in pre-construction.
we're gonna start out with the SD budget, which is kind of the basis of budget is what I would say based off of the system that's being put in here. And then there's all these other variables that kind of come into play when we're doing the design assist process. Whether it's contractor driven for maybe thinking about an alternative way to do something for cost reasons, whether it's owner driven because they want something different than maybe what was thought about originally. But the whole idea here is that as we work through that design assist process, it's the ability to be able to update that budget, not maybe at that milestone date, whether it's SDs or whether it's DDs, but it's keeping it in front of the team all of the time to make sure that we're still tracking where we need to be. And then at the end of it, we look at the construction cost associated with the final CDs. And, we're hoping that this turns out the same way that intermediate did, which was positive for us, for the district, for the general contractor, for everybody in the community. And that's the way we see this project going financially.
Yeah, and the thing that we take pride in with this process here is just the transparency of everything being out there for the team at all times. If we need to meet as a group to look at the snapshot of where we are from a cost standpoint, it is there. We can talk about different decisions that need to be made. And I think that transparency is all part of it's part of our responsibility as a partner is to be transparent, which is also, part of our responsibility as a partner is to make sure that we're doing things that are right for the staff, for the students, for the district, for the community. And in these projects, North American has a long history of local involvement, in the community, in the district, which we're very proud of and very appreciative of and fortunate, quite frankly, to be able to do that. So we're very happy with that and we'll continue to do that as well. But some of the opportunities that, these types of projects will present to the community, to the district, is the ability to educate on the construction process, educate on the mechanical systems. And, what we really want to do as part of our local involvement with this project is we want to really try to bring that into the project. We want to be available and will be available for whether it's, touring the mechanical systems, during the progress, after it's completed. In the last 5 years, we have started doing a project where we some call it a construction camp, some call it like a hands-on experience day where, STEM students or industrial arts students that are interested in what's going on in the project, doesn't necessarily have to be HVAC, but we will make our folks available to provide hands-on demonstration and give them a little bit better understanding of what's going on with the trades and spend time with them and do presentations. Some of the pictures that we have on the last page of the handout is just some examples of what we've done while these projects are going on, because I think it just is a real great opportunity to get everybody involved, to educate on the process. I think education, obviously, and learning is power and makes everybody feel better about what's going on. And we want to be a part of that, and we believe that we should be a part of that as a partner in the district. A couple of the other things that we're really looking forward to from an opportunity standpoint is an opportunity to either, one, work with the district through youth apprenticeship on these projects, and or if we have interested seniors that are graduating that want to get into the trades, we want to bring them on board too. We'd love to hire some outgoing seniors from the Waunakee School District to come back and work on their projects, right? To work in their district, work on the schools that are being built for the future. And whether that's with the youth apprenticeship, whether that's with direct hire into apprenticeship or through the Dane County Consortium, we just really make a commitment to do that because these are your facilities, these are the community's facilities, and we just have a responsibility really as a partner to do those things. So we commit to doing that. We've been doing it with other districts, that we've been performing work for in Dane County, and just have always tried to go above and beyond for the district and just make ourselves available for items like that. It's very important that we do that. We're kind of going through pretty fast. Any questions?
So you got 8 minutes. I've got one, just in terms of the schedule again, and I know you hit on the resource and the lead time. I was just looking through your backlog stuff, and I just caught a couple summer of 24 projects that seem to be fairly sizable. talk me through how this fits with different other work, whether it's the Madison School or the Rock County.
Yeah, so from a capacity standpoint, when the time that this project's gonna hit, meaning when the schedule of the first school would go, we have about 60 to 70% of our capacity that's available to fulfill this. So we have, 100 and on the HVAC side, we have 130 trade workers. On the plumbing side, we have 25 trade workers. So the thing about North American, as a merit shop contract, we have a limited amount of resources. So we are very particular and very, conscious about how we schedule our resources and what we look at from an opportunity standpoint. But from where this project will fall, it fits right in with where our capacity is. And in terms of the work that is being done, it is what we are really good at as a contractor in terms of the build, the type of system, the installation that will be going on inside this building.
Just to add to that too, I mean, once again, I said this lays out very similar to the intermediate project. So, I mean, based on when this project starts and when that one started, I mean, we already have a roadmap of what our manpower looks like just based on when that building was built and how this one would be built. So, we have a really good idea of what to plug in and ready if we were awarded the project to secure that time frame.
What are your long lead time items?
Yeah, so on kind of the second page of the handout, we tried to identify typical to these types of systems, what the long lead time items are with them. So really at the forefront, we have the heat recovery units that will be providing the air and the ventilation air to the building. Those right now, and this is based on a lead time that I actually got this weekend, 20 to 24 weeks after release. So what we try to lay out is we try to show, there's shop drawing generation that goes into this, there's shop drawing review. Where we really strive in these projects is in the shop drawing review category, because this can take, as you see, it can take 2 to 4 weeks. What we will push for is we'll push to sit down, whether it's one-on-one, face-to-face meetings with the engineer, the construction team, to work through that review quickly so that we can cut some time off the front end of that. And we've been very successful doing that. And then once that's done, once we release, then it's a tracking. And we are usually doing a weekly kind of check-in with our vendors on when the equipment is coming and when it's going to be delivered so that we can help keep Vogel's team informed on, when we may need to get a crane on site to set something, or when we want to, have some heavy equipment movers in to move into the building, or when rooms need to be ready, right? So one of the things that, with like if you look on here, not the heat pumps, but the geothermal pumps, that's the guts of the system inside the building. And what we want to do, what we will do with that is we'll just keep everybody very informed on when that room needs to be ready for when those pumps are coming, so that we can make sure that we are installing those, as soon as we can, to kind of get that field ready to go and start to get water circulating, at its earliest convenience, to help with the commissioning and help through all the startups just that move through the summer there.
So when you look at this, ultimately, it's the total from when you say go to get the shop drawing to the end, the total of 3 columns. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'll add to the other key thing here is many of these decisions can be made before the construction drawings are complete. Usually it's at the design development level where the engineering team has enough information where they can make those selections on that equipment, as long as we're communicating to them that these are critical pieces, you got to figure it out. And then, so it's not like we have to wait until the design is 100% complete.
Yeah, we actually really don't want to wait, until the design is 100% complete. We want to push to try to get that released, as early as possible, get those decisions made if we have all the information in front of us, because that just helps everybody else have a little, one more piece of kind of certainty in the project, that when this is coming and what's going to be here and you can plan for it. So we try really hard for that, to work with the team to try to get those items done and released as quickly as we can.
So you guys partner with a geothermal contractor, or is that expertise?
So we've got roughly 20 projects under our belt with geothermal. But we do partner with, normally it's GeoLoop because they're the most local. But we do have some other contacts that we can get some estimates from, just to make sure that, we're, kind of doing a gut check on their price and everything. But I'm glad you brought up the geothermal because, I mean, that's an important part of this project, is understanding when that needs to happen versus maybe when the engineers believe it needs to happen. The reality is a lot of time that everybody will come in and do their civil work, right? And then we've got to put the geothermal field in. What do we have to do then? Then we've got to strip all that out where those wells need to be done. My opinion is that the geofield goes in with the civil work so that it could be done and completed. And then that work's completed. And then when the general contractor is bringing the building up, we've already got the pipes stubbed into the building, right? Which then adds to the overall commissioning process and getting the building started. We've got that geofield completed for the spring, when we actually want to start the system up and, get it moving. So sometimes that geothermal system gets put in a little too late, and it's just really hard to get it up and running and commissioned the building on time for occupancy.
Yeah.
So.
And we manage that.
Yep.
In most cases, we manage that contractor. So we're on site with them, usually on a daily basis, checking on how many wells are getting drilled, how progress is going to make sure that if, we need to make an adjustment, just like any other portion of the schedule, we're making that adjustment.
Yeah.
Minute and a half.
Well, it's a terrific project. We really, appreciate the opportunity to come and talk today. We really hope that we will be part of the team. We believe that we'll do a terrific job for you, as we have on projects that we've done in the past with Waunakee. We're just looking forward to it. I think there's lots of great opportunities, like we talked about, to get the district involved, to get students involved. From a scheduling standpoint, just the collaboration that can happen between everybody on the team. The opportunities are really endless. So, as much as we want to push, as much as we want to try to strive, I think we can achieve those things. So
I think the other great thing is that we've done multiple geo projects with multiple consultants. So from a consultant standpoint, I don't think it matters who you hire because we've done design assist with every single one of them. So we kind of know where we need to go and with the right, kind of picking the right topics to talk about. But overall, every one of them has ended up exactly where we wanted it. And we've been able to get into the budget that was originally brought up at that SD level. So.
And your system that you propose would be similar to the other schools that you built, so that some parts.
Yeah, the standardization, I think, is very critical here. That's why if you look at the sheet that I provided on my breakdown, I listed some of the equipment that you have in the other buildings here. Not only is it familiar, for the consultants that are actually going to design the work, but it's right on key or right on topic with everything that we've done from a service standpoint here too.
yeah, it's kind of really on the sheet, it's kind of one of these details that I think really helps on the front end is understanding, we have a really good understanding of the district standards. And that when there's a budget put together on the front end, we understand what the district, wants from a maintenance standpoint or has wanted in the past from a maintenance standpoint. And including those items, because we want to make it, just as smooth on the back end turnover and maintenance as we're trying to make it on the front end. Just like what Peter talked about, thinking about that end in mind. So yes, it is, we are looking to continue the standardization, meeting the district standards for equipment, installation features, constructability, maintenance clearances, all of those items, definitely.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Great. Are you guys still using a Akita box?
We currently have it, yes.
You currently do. So that's something that you would want us to entertain as part of this project and integrate it into these new buildings. Is that a safe assumption?
It could be, we're looking at other platforms as well.
Okay.
Too, so.
But something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
I have one more for you. Are we gonna find any lunch pails in the tunnels at Heritage when that gets torn down? Return to you or anything?
No, I don't think so. Why, did you find some already?
Oh, looking through those tunnels for a whole like half a year
Yeah.
of your life?
I spent a lot of time in those tunnels. I know pretty well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. All right, well, welcome. The last one. Everyone's still awake, so that's two good things.
Is it true what they say? You save the
Get one.
best for last, or is that
No, you don't get it.
So we have 25 minutes. I'll
Do you need
start
one
the
or-
clock if you guys want to do introduction.
Here you go.
Right in. Probably ask
That
questions.
was
Go from there. It's all yours.
Yeah, sounds great. So I'll kind of kick it off here. This is our 1901 team. We have the mechanical, electrical, plumbing group here, most of which are represented that'll partake in the project itself. I'm Tori, I'm a resident.
Tim Olstead.
Alex L.
Gregory Jaros.
Matt Yordy?
I just wanted to thank you guys for taking the opportunity to, in consideration of 1901 for what we do. As a trade, I know a lot of us here and a lot of people at 1901 do live in the school district. A lot of kids that have kicked their way through the school district through a lot of years. So a lot of involvement from the community side, just not a lot of involvement so far from the mechanical side. So we look forward to potentially partnering up with you guys.
So I'm gonna go through a little bit of the project resource plan and how we intend to kind of tackle this project. I guess our biggest thing is, both from the PM side and the field side, putting multiple people on it, especially from the field side, understanding the critical path in the elementary school to make sure that we can handle not only the new builds, but also the remodels that you guys have going on. So besides just the PM that are listed there and our foreman that we had in our RFP, we have a full estimating, pre-con, BIM, purchasing department behind it to make sure that we are identifying the long lead items and doing what we can to make sure we stay on track with you guys' schedule. Down below there's some numbers that kind of talk about our trade size and volume and our personnel that we have. But I guess the bigger point is we understand the current economic conditions over the last couple of years and where everything's at. And I guess the biggest point to it is we've been resource planning the entire time for jobs like this, that we haven't overcommitted ourselves to make sure that we can tackle jobs of this size and this complexity and base more of our work on quality versus quantity so that we know what we make the right decisions on what jobs we commit to. And when we commit to them, we're gonna make sure we can do it. The other part of it is, I guess, Vogel kind of give us a preliminary schedule that we went through, but essentially based on the duration of the job, it's really gonna be broke out where we can have the right amount of resources to do the work because it's over the 3-year period. So it's not like we're taking a huge chunk every year or we're gonna try and bottle as much as we can in when the kids aren't in school, but at the same time, it's gonna be stretched out, especially with the new build. So it makes it with their project schedule, it makes it easier from a resource planning standpoint.
And I'll jump in. I'm going to touch base on this project schedule and system verification and selection. So I did have an opportunity to meet with John here recently, a couple of years ago, or about a year, to just kind of help out with the school district when we're looking at some GPS units, trying to get the kids back in school. So we sat down, we toured each facility, and then kind of came up with a spreadsheet of the equipment. So I think between ourselves and Vogel, whether it be mechanically, plumbing, or electrical, we kind of do the same resources, kind of walk the facilities, kind of see what's in each building, kind of see what the facilities engineers, what they like, what they don't like, what makes sense. We as a contractor could give feedback as far as lead times, costs, anything that we're seeing within the market. Give that feedback early so that when the engineers kind of put pen to paper, we're moving in the right direction right off the bat. I think that will help expedite the schedule to come next April. We're looking at potentially trying to break ground over by the intermediate school. We have actual documentation, something that we want to push forward, and we're not doubling back and trying to
sift through different selections or cost applications at that point. So I think that would be something that we would do on the verification selection side. Like I said, either trade. As far as schedule goes, I know Alex kind of touched on it. We know that the new elementary school, so Heritage Elementary, is kind of our big milestone, right? We got to get that one going. Got to get in a nice spot, and we need to figure out our big milestone dates to make sure that completion is going to be accurate, so that we could potentially start looking at the new middle school start date, making sure that that's key. Other than that, I know we work closely with Vogel on other projects, just man-loaded charts, really identifying those milestones, looking at long lead items, working with our suppliers, and communicating any obstructions or anything that we see within the market early and often, whether it's schedule impact or cost impact, so we can let the team know and make a more informed decision, whether it comes down to time, schedule, or cost, just so everyone has time to react.
Little addition to that, so we put together kind of a team. The RFP shows the expansive nature of what we have to offer for our field, our office, our estimating, our purchasing. The entire team is at the disposal of the district here to get this job done on time, on budget, to not let it fail, because this is where we live and this is what we do. We all have a vested interest in this project going well and forming good partners with good people. And we've done a lot of work with Vogel, not so much with the district, but we look forward to that partnership. So our team is here at the disposal of the project to make sure it goes successfully.
Then to just hit on the budget perspective, I know schedule is obviously paramount for you guys, getting that elementary school turned over on those dates. Budget is equally as important, and setting that GMP early is going to be important, and getting us involved on the front end is going to help with that. Selecting different systems, doing cost analysis with the engineers, that's going to be big on the front end. And then similar project deliveries with the design assist approach here with the early trade management partner, getting involved there, and then providing your budget updates along the way, because a GMP approach of the project doesn't do the district any good if at the end of the project you're given, here's a lump sum of money back. You want that money early so you can expand your STEM classroom or something else where you can use it. You don't want to make a budget cut somewhere else when there's money sitting in somebody else's coffers. So we're committed to giving you guys that kind of feedback along the way.
Into some of our community involvement here.
Yeah, and some of the things that we've done in the past, especially school projects, is give us an opportunity for some of the youth who might be interested in exploring the trades as a post-high school employment opportunity, whether it be with our engineers, our designers, our field installers. It just ends up being a pretty neat experience for them to be part of, working on a school that they are actually enrolled in at the time.
Different perspective, different opportunities. One that I can speak, for myself is coming through high school and then even into college, or through high school was kind of like your path to be college after high school. There's a lot of sway back to the trades from a dollars perspective, from an opportunity perspective. They're very good careers, and we have the ability to at least offer the students to do either, or get exposure to either as we're building this project. So like I mentioned before, the project team is tied to the community very heavily. I guess it's probably one of the heaviest ties that we have for 1901. I believe we have about 300 or so people that work at 1901, about 230 or 40 in the field for what we have right now. So those are the people actually doing the install. And we have a significant amount in the Waunakee School District, or were in the past, or have kids that have went through the school district itself. So myself, I've been in the district since 08. We put 4 kids through the district right now. I started putting my coaching hat on for every single thing that there is, every sport that they've played and participated in since that time. Pretty much it goes from the coaching opportunities that I've been able to take part in, the field trips, the volunteering at schools. Even today, just for instance, came home and it was the Arboretum Dash, all the stuff that we're there counting the laps and doing the things to help the community get better and raise funds and stuff like that. So So we are tied. Greg, do you want to touch a little bit on stuff you're doing or have done?
Yeah, so my wife and I joined the Waunakee community about 13 years ago. My son Jackson just started intermediate school and he went through Heritage Elementary. My daughter is currently at Heritage Elementary with Ms. Sharf. And kind of like Tori, just trying to get involved in the community, helping out with coaching across the board with some of the village center through baseball and softball. I know our family, we volunteered to the Food for Kids. We had a good time with that, just getting the kids involved and teaching them how to give back and being involved with different community members that way. And my daughter, or my wife actually gets involved with Girl Scouts, so she's a troop leader. And a lot of the teachers that we interact with, then some of their kids are in the Girl Scouts. So it's just fun as a community member to kind of give back. I can't teach, I'm not a teacher, but I get to help teach their children outside of the classroom, just tend to be a better teammate, better person, become accountable.
He lives near the intermediate school, so if you need
Yeah.
playground area, like his backyard.
Yeah, 15 years, this would be the closest project I've ever lived to, actually live across the street. The intersection in which you turn into the intermediate school, that is my house. I'll see it out the window every day when I'm washing dishes. It better be going good.
Or you have the guy to call, down the trades, you just send him over there, take care of it in short order there, so. Matt touched on it a little bit here, but it kind of goes without saying, but we'll mention it anyway. Obviously, being in the district here, we are very cost conscious of what we're doing, trying to make it the most economical without taking any quality away from what we're doing to add to the project, right? So obviously, if the project costs more, we're all contributing to that for those who are residents, and we're very conscious of that. So that's always something that is just kept in mind from our side too. Examples kind of Greg had given in the past, and I think there's a couple different instances, but it's just us paying attention to when you guys have the board meetings here, what decisions are being made, even though we're not necessarily working directly for you. It's knowing what the district is doing and how they're doing it, and if we can help out in any way, we try to, right? So I mean, his kind of reach out was really truly that, just trying to say, here's how we feel like we can help you out and partner up with you guys on some different instances. So
Where are you guys located?
right off of the Beltline, right off of kind of Fish Hatchery Road is the exit off there. So, well, and that, not to go into too much of the other stuff. So 1901 is actually when the company was founded. In 1901, so rebranded, was H&H formerly, rebranded several years ago, probably 6-7 years ago or something like that. So 1901 has been around for a long time, but then that's the location we've been at for the longest. So the other thing we wanted to add is being in the industry that we are, and obviously we have representation in the community. We also partner up with our suppliers and vendors. See kind of on our handout here. There's a few names on there that obviously aren't part of our team, but they're people that we do leverage and bring on play there under the community involvement. The fourth bullet point down, you'll start to see some of the companies and people who are involved with those companies or own them, wherever their affiliation is. But people that even if we don't, aren't being utilized right now, they're ones that can bring perspective for us. Other, approved equal type products availability. Just another resource, I guess, for us to bring to the project. So, and then we'll go without saying, our owner, Paul Christensen, would be disappointed probably if he didn't mention that his sister and husband and their 4 kids live in the district as well. So outside of that, we've done the volunteering stuff. We have support of the softball field. We have 1901 signs up on the JV softball field and the varsity softball field, kind of supporting some of those initiatives through the year. And I guess anything else community involvement, guys?
It really just comes down to the tie to this job is sitting at this table and is going to be committed, and there's no room for failure because we're going to live it and we're going to live in it. Once we're done, we can't, we're going to be going back there with our kids or your guys' kids and being a part of it. So it's more than just a job. It's a part of making it a staple for the community and a showpiece that people love to and learn it. And that's what it's all about. So.
Yeah, so I guess to kind of wrap some stuff up here from our side, we'll open it up to any questions you have or things we need to kind of review for you. But so many of us obviously we're in the community, put on our 19-1 gear during the day and go to work and come back home afterwards. And then we typically are throwing on the purple. And we're going to work for the community, whether that's in the classroom or in the sports avenues or the music avenues, whatever it is. You have a lot of people who are truly part of this community, living it every single day and giving back for years and years and years. So I would say, kind of in closing, for what we have from our side, in 2008, my wife and I and 2 kids at the time lived in Sun Prairie. And just about when our kids were ready to start going to school, we had that hard decision where, like we said, to start doing our own interviews. So we did go look at, when we looked at Sun Prairie, we were there. We looked at Waunakee, we looked at Verona, we looked at Stoughton, Oregon, all those schools, districts, and saw what they had to offer. And it was this district that brought us here. It was your school district that you guys have here that selected us in theory, right? So that was our right fit. When it's all said and done, we want to be your partner here. We hope that we're the right fit for you guys. I hope, I'm not sure that this allows enough time for us to vet all that out. So we do want to turn it over to any questions that you guys have for us, approaches, personnel wise. So just appreciate you guys giving this consideration.
I've been asking the backlog questions today, so just perusing through your proposal, looked like on the HVAC side, a decent amount of work over at Madison Schools, and then on the plumbing side, the Old Block project. All those have similar completion dates with elementary school work. We talked how you can resource that work plus this work.
Yeah, and I'll touch on the OLA project. So those who are familiar or not, it's like a 10 to 11 story mixed use apartment complex type thing for UW. And the plumbing there, we started design on that probably a little over a year ago. Still wrapping up to some of the coordination on the CAD side of things, and we're kind of on first floor right now. It is a project that is supposed to be completion of October of 2024. And to address, I guess, the one concern, the staff that we have on that project is not who we're proposing on this. So what aligns really nicely with these 2 schools is the people in the plumbing side that we've allocated or intend to use are going to be coming free when this project is ready to go.
And with some of the other school projects we have for on the HVAC side, there are both remodels and how they're phased. It doesn't secure a tremendous amount of resources at one time for any given amount of time. So we just ramp up and then we have some availability throughout that time. And this one is getting ready to start. The new build outs will be ramping back down. So
There was a question earlier about just our shop and kind of where we're located, just on the south side of Madison on the Beltline. So that is our main headquarters facility, our offices. We also have our fabrication shops there. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So we have a large sheet metal shop, pipe weld fabrication shop, dedicated plumbing shop. We have warehouses for storage and lean-tos. And then we also procured another facility just a block down the road, Stewart Street facility. That's where we have a lot of our inventory coming in and out, shipments, delivery, as well as our service department. I think we're about 10, 12 strong right now, just in the office. And they also have their field staff. And then the back side of that building, since it's rather large, we have more storage electrical. We have our electrical fabrication shop back there, where we're trying to expedite some processes when it comes to panels and stuff that we can't source right now. So we're actually making some of that stuff.
And that's a benefit to the project for what it is, because obviously space is of a premium. So us being able to work with the project team, fabricate what we can on site, kind of do the just-in-time delivery stuff, not clog the job sites up with a lot of workers, and we can do it in a controlled environment, working on the pace, and then bring it out here and ultimately save the product money.
Talk through a little bit about your exposure to geothermal, and you self-perform that work? Is that subcontracted work?
Geothermal work, we usually partner with specialty contractor that does that on a regular basis. And we work with them as it comes into the building and where our connection starts and theirs stops. They're part of our team.
Do you recall who we used? Because we just finished up Sun Prairie High School, Sun Prairie West. They have a geo field on theirs. I know Tim wasn't the project manager. I just never recall who it was. But yeah, we just put in Sun Prairie West geo field as well.
How many fields have you guys worked on? How many projects have you been involved with?
I don't know. Right off the top 4 I can think of. Or more. 4 that I know for sure. The schools, the fire station. And again, we bring them on as a partner and then we work with them throughout.
Are you alluding to the new heritage? Would that be similar to the intermediate school then with the geo field and the heat pumps? And so when it comes down to the verification selection, is that something, John, maybe you're digging into as far as what equipment works the best, what you like and don't like type thing?
I'll
or
leave it
not
to
there
the,
yet?
you guys are the experts at that.
Okay.
Well, I guess to that point, that's perfectly great. That's exactly what we want to be for you there. You would tell us what needs improvement or doesn't work very well, or what you'd like to see it to do or format, and we're there to be able to help you make some recommendations, provide cost analysis when it comes to that stuff, life cycle stuff. So
Yeah, I think what we would like to do is provide consistency across, right, all the schools if possible. As long as what you have is working and you like it, I'd like to stick with that, get you the best buy possible, or figure out avenues, where are the shortcomings and try to fix those moving forward, but trying to standardize it a little bit.
I think I know this answer, but obviously you're representing 3 trades today. Is it 3 or none, or are you okay splitting it up potentially?
no, we obviously we're willing to split things up as we need to. There's a value obviously that comes outside of just the cost of our internal workings of what we do, but there's some some multi-trade advantages that we can do when it comes to a job like this, where we're administrative resources, if it's coordination from the CAD/BIM side of things, for us to do things in the pre-construction side, for us to kind of help have Vogel or the district use one point of contact or multiple points, whatever you guys prefer, to see whatever's the efficiency side of it. So yeah, absolutely, we're here to help you in any discipline we can. If there's an opportunity for us to show some savings as a result of what we can do efficiency wise in-house, we pass those along to you guys if we're more remote.
Anything else from the?
Long-
Look at that,
long
you
day.
guys beat the
I think
schedule.
we-
You got 3 minutes to spare.
Yeah. I'm on budget. That's it.
Doing great on marketing your trucks. Getting everywhere.
Appreciate that.
Even outside of
Since we
town.
have a little time, I'll go into a little more of the history of what it is. So 1901, H&H formed in 1901, rebranded, actually, and there was, so you started off as a plumbing company, then it was plumbing and HVAC and electrical and solar, I believe, and then it was
2008.
2008, thank you. The electrical and the solar division of H&H went elsewhere, and then plumbing HVAC stayed. And then H&H Solar and Electric started up plumbing. So you had 2 H&H plumbings as it went through. So then it caused kind of a lot of chaos with, as you can imagine, with contractors and jobs and all that stuff. So then they kind of went through a rebranding back in 2017, 2018, I think, is to 1901. So that's the basis for the name. And yeah, it's crazy. Through everything that is the pandemic, we're doing a great job of hiring the right people and smart, intelligent people who can get things done and probably, go above and beyond even through this trying time that we're in growth mode. It's a controlled growth that we're doing, but it truly is that. I mean, so yeah, your point, Ted, I guess you're seeing probably 1901 gear, if you will, kind of more around that
What are you
scenario.
seeing in the economy? Rates are going up. Is that affecting you guys?
We got hit very hard by all of the commodities and then the lead times, therefore, the larger HVAC or electrical equipment. We've seen it kind of plateau off a little bit, and I think we're speculating that things are going to start to go up a little bit cost. So I mean, it's good to get to try to get ahead of it as far as you can and get things kind of locked down, secured down, in order and all that stuff. But we're kind of projecting a little bit with partners on what's going on commodity price.
What makes you speculate that it's going up?
The partners do our suppliers. I say our partners, our suppliers or vendors. People we're buying our material from. They're plugged into
The raw material markets.
It's really probably the raw material markets that drive it, and then we get kind of monthly reports of really where the projection is of whether it's copper or stainless or whatever. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so specific to plumbing on my side, we have trade partners and they'll shoot us email blasts. And unfortunately, when stuff started happening in Russia, a lot of nickel was an issue, which nickel's and stainless. So we got a blast, hey, in 3 months, once our stocks are depleted, we're going to see, potentially a 12 to 17% increase on stainless. So if we're in the middle of a project, we share that with our end users, kind of let them know we're up to it. Or if we're in a hard contract, and that's something that we're responsible for, we might invest in some of that stainless now and store it. So we got to make those decisions. Same with PVC. Made in the United States, we see some weather issues. I know Texas got hit hard in the past, and not Florida, but when Texas got hit, same thing. Hey, in 6 months, we're running out of materials. We're going to have a price increase, and we try to share that. Some of the trade partners that we've listed that are community members, that some of them that I coach with our youth, they do the same thing. Hey, water heaters are a big one. For a while there, it was like almost once a month, we're going up 5%, we're going up 2%, we're going up 7%, we're going up 5%. We were just trying to, instead of playing catch up, we're trying to get in front of that and just kind of educate people that aren't in that construction world, that aren't seeing those email blasts daily or weekly, whatever it may be, just so you're more informed and we can make decisions together a little bit better.
For a while there, we were getting the information daily, and they're like, well, we can't hold the price until tomorrow. Even it's like, whoa. So we gotta get you a PO for stuff right now and get things lined up so we're secured in. And so that's just the stuff we've been doing.
That kind of stuff. That was a little while.
Yeah, well, appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
There you go.
Thank you.
Perfect.
What I was just talking to mention, Jay, is it has been important for the school board in the recent past to have standards with our equipment across all of our buildings, whether it's been a control system that is the same in all of our buildings that could be managed off-site, or beginning with the 2014 referendum, having a consistent electrical subcontractor so that we had similar standards across all of our buildings. Can you just speak in general, Jay, to how that process would work in our district, knowing that there's been a long-term goal of seeking that consistency and standards across our buildings?
Yeah, so let's start with the plumbing, which is probably the easiest and simplest one from that standpoint. The last group had asked John even about some equipment, pumps. There's certain pumps and manufacturers and stuff like that, but typically on the plumbing side, it's not a huge deal from a contractor standpoint as far as standardization, because they're following whatever you like or don't like in other schools. When you get into electrical components, specifically probably more on the low voltage, which the Westfall group talked a little bit more about. John Weeks is on the low voltage side. So when it gets into any type of PA systems or intercom, your clock systems, security systems, a lot of those, there is interface that you're going to want to have potentially standardized across the district. Each electrical subcontractor can typically go procure those types of systems and the back end that match up with that, but that's something that you may want to consider on the electrical side. On the HVAC side, from a control standpoint, that's a spot where North America installs the Andover controls, which you have in all the buildings. That doesn't mean that if Hooper or 1901 get hired for HVAC, they couldn't go hire North America to do the control system, but then obviously you have two people working together that are also competitors as well. So from an HVAC standpoint, it's still able to be done. It's just a little bit more of a challenge. But but you're gonna definitely want to stay with the same control system because that gives you a lot of efficiencies across the district from, a preventative maintenance standpoint and also if there is any issues with mechanical equipment, John and his team's able to diagnose that really fast.
Seems like Hooper does a lot of geothermal.
Hooper and North American, I would say both to the same level.
But Hooper is internal.
No, they would still sub out the drilling component. Everything outside of the building, all three of the firms would still subcontract that out. Typically, we would GOD.
Then would you mind just sharing with the?
Yeah,
community
so
your work
this
there?
is a lot of numbers and a lot kind of small even for me to read from back here, but what I want to just hit at a high level here. So each of these tabs, so in this case, this is the plumbing tab. These are each of the respondents, and what we ask them for from a financial perspective is really 3 or 4 main things. The first is, what's your markup on the cost of work would be? The second is, what your pre-construction reimbursement amount would be. So how much are you going to charge us for time ahead of construction starting? And then what are the rates for your office people? Anticipate hours for the office people. What are your rates for your field people? So today you saw between the teams a mixture of office and field, but then obviously from a trade worker standpoint, it goes all the way down to those apprentices, journeyman. What we then do is based on the hours provided by the different contractors, we take an average and we pick the numbers that we think make the most sense and we apply that across the board to get an apples to apples comparison. So if you take a look in this example, we're in the plumbing. So, for example, 1901 is at 2%. Ahern was 1.75. Hooper is 2.5%. Well, when you look at the total, even though Hooper is at 2.5 versus a 2, all in, their package is about $100,000 less than that. In the grand scheme of things, on 4.7 million, $100,000 really is not that big of a difference because, based on the team that's provided, they can provide more than $100 of savings just by being able to get you different manufacturers for equipment, manage the job correctly. If they're able to manage the project and make sure that they only need 2,000 hours of this plumbing foreman instead of 1,000 hours, there's various ways that can be made up. So this is at least a tool to show you where people fall, but once you give it within $100,000 or less, I wouldn't make a decision solely based on these financial numbers. As you'll see, a lot of the firms we talked to today were in that bunching. Some of the suppliers on the high end, this was one of the reasons that they did shortlisted. Then as you go across the trades on the HVAC, very similar. North American Mechanical over here, Hooper there, and it's over here. You can see that it's a pretty tight pack between those 3. Electrically, electrical construction, Westfall, 1801 over here. So in this case, 1901 was a little bit more aggressive on electrical. That is an area where they don't have as much experience on school work specifically as the other 2, but since they were coming for HVAC and plumbing, we said we might as well.
So where's Westfall? Westfall's 5.4.
Electric construction's 5.3.
Who's at 1901 is 5.1.
Yeah. And if you look across up here, so their fees 2, Westfall's 1.5, electric construction's 2. Where they're a little bit lower is going to be like Alex that was here, for example. They're saying he's part of the fee and doesn't need to get reimbursed for his time on the project. Ryan, who's here from Westfall, is getting reimbursed. And so the difference likely comes in here a little bit. And then I think the labor rates, if you just pick, let's pick a journey person. So they're at $82 versus $81 and 20,000 hours. That ends up being $20,000, so. Again, when we do this, we try to see, is somebody way out of line, and if it's a closer group, it weighs into the decision-making process, but it shouldn't be. As we prep people to come in today, the three things we asked them to talk about were the schedule, the community, the financial portion. Nobody really got into the weeds on this piece. They talked more about managing the budget piece. But I think across the groups, it's interesting in, some of the firms and who did the talking in the firms as well, as far as project managers versus maybe more leadership in the firms. At the end of the day, typically your project management and your pre-construction people are going to make or break that project in the beginning, and then of course it's the field leadership that's going to make or break as you get onto the site. PM is going to be closely attached to their head. Is there a trade you want to start with? And
Start with steel.
steel? Okay.
Done.
Seems like the easiest.
Yeah.
I think, we're at the electrical. It's the trade to start with. And all of these groups are union.
The three that you met with today, yes, Jack. Yep. There's a couple you can see here. Even though some of these, we actually went out to 8. There's a couple here, these two are not. But both of them declined to participate. For electric solutions, both schools was probably too large for them, but I wanted them to make that decision. And Faith did the cemetery work, I believe. They've done some more road work, and they just right now aren't necessarily interested in schoolwork.
And why didn't we see from some that are on the list?
We met with the administrator actually with Randy, Steve, and John, and shortlisted based on financials, local involvement, similar work to team laws.
I think Jay provided some good context just as far as kind of how the scope of this work would fit in. Some of their other factors that we kind of narrowed it down to the 3 that came up for this area.
Yeah. Would have loved to have done about 15 of these.
Yeah, I think that's your question, so super.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah, as long as you kept asking the question. Yeah.
The other context of Westfall and North American and Cooper were the trades on the intermediate project too.
Cooper was.
Yeah. But on the plumbing side, showing them North American.
So did I understand that correctly, or was it just because it was a different trade and Tori answering the way I thought it would be, prices are going to, I'd speculate that they're going to go up. And the other ones were saying that plateau and will be going down. Is that more on the raw material that he was seeing instead of the components or the, because he shot a different answer.
Yeah, I mean, the steel, I think, like Sam said, that's hopefully going to come down a little bit, maybe stay flat. I think the last group was speaking more specifically to plumbing, probably. That's why I was Tori and Ryan.
But from this standpoint here, it seems Westfall is pretty competitive.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't use this spreadsheet to make a decision on financials unless somebody was way out of whack.
Yeah.
Nothing there seems out of, I mean,
I would say you can take dollars off the table between the 3, and then it comes down to who you think's the best fit based on their proposals and what you saw.
Based on those numbers.
Well, Westfall's been here. Why would you?
I do like that they have the subsidiary on the low voltage, fire, security, access control side of GlobalCom. They do good work for us right now too. So I don't know electrical construction and 1901s, although they subcontract those or who they use.
Yeah, both of those firms and electricians treat it differently. Sometimes they'll do all the roughing, so run all the panel and all that, and then just hire somebody to do the low voltage. Sometimes they'll do it all in-house. Both ECI and 1901, I would guess, would subcontract out that low voltage.
Surprising or not, the amount of local involvement with all of them. Deliver.
Yeah, one thing I would look at there specifically, like at the project manager level, I think that's really important. And I was kind of surprised by the amount of project managers at each of the firms that do that here.
Does Westfall have a project manager in town?
So no, but Mike in Westfall is on the
Oh, Mike.
pre-construction side.
Yeah.
And
She's in town.
actually, no, I lied. Yeah, Josh, too many faces to Josh, I think.
Yeah, Josh is.
Josh is local too. Yeah. So he's the project manager.
What position does Mike in?
She's a vice president over there. I think on this project, they listed her as the pre-construction, so she'd be involved up until like the construction.
So in the design.
So you said steel, we've been talking electrical. Like the steel here.
Or do you want to bounce through them and come back too, if you want to think?
Well, do we have a good reason not to pick Westfall again?
From the numbers, I don't see there, just looking at numbers. And I know that's not the only thing.
But they do all of the parts, the low voltage that's really
It's
important.
really easy for my team and I to say Westfall, I have a camera or a card
Yeah,
reader or
yeah,
a switch,
yeah.
the panel, the electrical panel.
Moving the wall,
That's nice.
covering.
That would make me nervous too. Well, and I'm sure it can be coordinated, but it seems more seamless.
Yeah, I would suspend move forward as well.
Good with that. Okay. Got two done.
HVAC, you want to go next?
Sure.
Jay, you said Hooper did intermediate plumbing. So does that include fire protection? Do you recall? I don't know the answer.
I don't think so. And that's, I mean, that is a good question, John. We did not, all these same firms you've talked to besides North American, so Hooper, 1901, also do fire protection work. We felt as though there isn't any really long lead time there, and there's a bigger group of qualified subcontractors there, so we felt like we'd get beyond referendum and maybe into the early of next year before we would.
I didn't know if you're looking at into plumbing currently, or while, let's say we're looking at NAMI and Hooper for HVAC, should we consider the fire protection side now, or if they're bidding for plumbing as well?
Yeah, I wouldn't consider the fire protection. Now, I think Hooper might have put in their fire protection, if I recall, in the proposal, but I wouldn't pull fire protection into the discussion now, because there's a lot of times where the fire protection stuff is different than the plumbing, even though that plumbing company does both or vice versa.
Can you slide it up a little, Jay, so we can see the bottom numbers?
So again, I would take this off the table.
Yeah.
That's between the three to talk to.
And I mean, obviously we have a relationship with NAMI. What do we have with Hooper?
Hooper does the majority of our plumbing, I would say 95% of our plumbing.
I would say
projects.
you know, we get NAMI in here.
Yeah.
I would just continue on, you know, those guys, in my estimation. And, you know, numbers are, you know, looks like, NAMI is low. Total package there.
Scroll.
This, sorry. Yeah, where they make a, so they are non-union. And you can see here on the field side, their labor rates are a little bit. You know, two firms, that's where majority of the difference is. No, it's not, you know, it's only 160,000 here, so.
Yeah, but they're already here, they're, you know, watching over the HV.
You provide the annual energy report. I mean, that
Is that a benefit?
I know your office uses that, but
You know, and if we use the same equipment, same spare parts, you know, they just load up their equipment, they would service vans with, you know, warranty parts.
Explain that a little bit more, what they provide, the reports on the.
they help us monitor and control the usage of the temperatures and humidities in all the buildings. So they measure the energy that we use to do that as well at the meters. So they provide our energy reports and costs per kilowatt hour. And it's just a real nice document for us at the end of the year.
And then budget wise, I think planning wise, Steve, for using the team that helps, right?
Well, the other thing too, I think they're watching their system on a daily basis. You know, so they're tapping into our system and saying, you know, this bearing might be going out. And, you know, they're doing, you know, that preventive type maintenance. They're watching the filters. You know, do we need new filters or, you know, whatever's challenging to system performance. And I think they're giving you the heads up.
They do proactively. I meet with Pete Rothering, and he proactively tells me the ages of equipment and you should really be looking at this. And so we currently have them with us on the contract to do the maintenance. So they do a great job at it.
Which they continue to do with the buildings, but not this one, then, and we'll be good.
So again, just looking at those numbers though, yeah, you know, they're all comparable.
I know.
Maybe there's no reason not to.
That, you're rolling. You guys can eat too, by the way, don't worry about, unless you want to make these decisions, are you a little hungry yet? They go faster. So then plumbing's the last one here. So again, you've got 1901, Hooper, North American.
So when we talk geothermal, where does that HVAC? That's in HVAC.
Yeah, even though intuitively you would maybe think of it as plumbing.
Right.
Yeah, it's HVAC. But again, you know, all the holes that get drilled vertically and then all the horizontal piping, that's all done by a third party subcontractor.
Essentially the same with. Is there many of them?
Yeah,
or-
it could be that GeoLoop.
GeoLoop is like the primary one these days. Sam's well drilling out of somewhere up north. Sam's used to get involved in it and do kind of a quasi. but It's mainly GeoLoop that does that.
So then when it comes down to plumbing, where it's putting heat pumps in.
So HVAC, so plumbing is just gonna be all of your storm water drainage, so any of your flat roofs, kind of all that storm water in, and all your water. Water stuff and water. So on the HVAC side, they'll do all that piping for the geothermal system within the building is all done by HVAC pipe fitters.
So if you look at, you know, you look at Hooper, they're at Epic. And they're doing all of it.
Yep.
Do they bring more experience from the standpoint of being able to identify, cost savings for us in their project? Or would Annie, from that standpoint, be able to
From an HVAC standpoint, you're saying, or geothermal system?
geothermal?
I think NAMI probably has more school-specific projects. Whereas Hooper probably has maybe more total wells or total geothermal projects altogether, not school-specific. But I think both of them are fairly even. So, expertise in that. One thing to consider too is intermediate. Really has a field that ultimately supervise the installation of, that will ultimately potentially be able to maybe tap off of. So depending on how that field's performing right now, you may not have to do as many wells in the new field if there's some efficiency to be gained. You know, that system is really like a battery, right? So it's either cooling the earth or warming the earth, depending on your season. And so that's something that, again, from a North American standpoint, they know what was installed there, where somebody, Hooper doesn't necessarily, but it's.
So is the third column here, is that Hooper?
Yeah.
So Hooper, looks like Hooper.
Yeah, so the one interesting piece with Hooper, and I didn't really think about it until now. So the gentleman that was sitting here, Tony Stotts, I'm pretty sure is a Waunakee guy, but he wasn't listed as a project manager on the plumbing. And I didn't think about it until now. I was like, well, yeah, Tony must have been PM. And I see Kip is actually the guy they listed. So I wasn't sure.
But I think he also was listed as one key resident.
Yeah, Tony is, yeah. Oh, Kip.
But Kip also.
Kip might be too. I was thinking he was up in Portage.
But if you're just looking at the numbers, Hooper's the way to go.
Especially, like you said, that's the least, it's the more straightforward. You haven't had as many.
Yeah, I really like the Hooper team. They have so much Waunakee involved.
They all did. I mean, that's why you can almost take that out. They're all really involved. They all really want to do it for those reasons.
Yeah.
See, the margin is higher for the Hooper. I'm trying to look for the why 1901's cost is more.
It comes on the office side. If you see here, Hooper's only charging for Brian, who did a lot of talking on the plumbing side, and the project manager, but the rest of these that don't have numbers in them are all positions that really come in with this 2.5% overrun. So they're saying we're only going to charge you for these 2 people, everybody else is in our fee. So if you look at, 1901's a little 2%, but they've got more people that they get reimbursed for. If you look at their labor rates here, they're within $1 of each other. So that's pretty tight. So one thing, 1901, Greg's a really good project manager and he lives right across the street from this facility. And Tori's background is plumbing, even though he spoke today kind of for plumbing and HVAC, and Tori's obviously a resident too, so. That is one thing I feel like on the, if you look PM wise, Hooper's got, or 1901's got a really strong team. So,
It's a tough one. They're both impressive.
Yeah.
Mhm.
1901
Yeah,
brought their game, I think.
Well, you wouldn't have brought a bad contractor. Right? We've said all of these contractors are doing a good job. Right?
Without question.
Some interview different or better than others, but that's.
Yeah,
not
but
what they're good
I
at,
think
right?
you sit here and say, hey, we shouldn't worry about those numbers, but from a quality standpoint, 1901 can do the job, Hooper can do the job, NAMI can do the job. And we've had experience with everybody's, except for 1901.
Hooper does do a great job.
So I think,
Down to the number.
it comes down to the number.
Well, I think what Jay said, a good project manager is really important. And I think we have to, use your expertise.
You saying Hooper doesn't have a good project?
No, they're, Hooper's just doesn't have a cost of school site. So you won't have as close of an eye on it as 1901. I was just looking in there because.
Yeah, maybe that isn't the Waunakee guy, as I'm looking at, yeah, I think I have that one.
But they've already done business with us. They're a good contractor.
Hooper.
Hooper. Mhm.
Why would you look elsewhere to begin with? Good acting. Yeah, that's. The difference is significant.
One, the biggest question I had coming in was that capacity question for them specifically, because it was too big, but in my mind, their answer to that, I didn't realize a lot of that work was done this summer.
For Hooper.
Yeah, so I was worried, I circled that when I went through these proposals that I need to ask what that looks like, because I was concerned potentially resource wise, when we had 2 other school projects on the same timeline as this. I knew those were renovation projects, but it makes sense now that they've got a lot of that work put in place.
So just for the committee to know, on next Monday's special board meeting, I do have an agenda item. If this committee wants to make a recommendation for next Monday night, we can put that on the meeting as well. A recommendation for today's interviews, we could put that on next Monday's meetings agenda, a special board meeting, instead of waiting till the November board meeting.
Anything that helps
Which
that timeline.
Which I would like, because
Yeah.
we're gonna get a package from eBay hopefully next Wednesday. We'll know for sure tomorrow at 14, but that I want to then update the elementary package. We'll get through, we can update the budget based on the layout that the board saw last Monday, right?
So are we on the same page? Hooper for plumbing, NAMI, HVAC, Westfall for electrical?
Yeah, I was only thinking this one. You don't get another chance to sharpen your pencil. That doesn't happen anymore. They gave a number. So.
Yeah.
I'm good with those.
You're gonna be negotiating that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, the thing is, when you lay your numbers out like this, it's hard to go back.
Yeah.
You know, say,
And everything's provided publicly, so now we know where the competition is at and stuff. It's just that. How we do business and I think we have.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to make a recommendation for those 3? 4, because we do have Andros.
Yeah, I make the recommendation that structural steel is Endress, Westfall, electrical, Hooper, plumbing, and then NAMI.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no.
I'm not gonna notify anyone until after next Monday, is that fair?
Yes.
I know, but
Yeah.
they're savvy enough to go look, Jack, they can, but I'd rather wait for it to go through the board before I.
Yeah, actually, there would be having some discussion at board level.
I do need a motion to adjourn then.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.